Hello.
Hello,
everyone.
How are we all today? Sorry, I couldn't
not too
figure out where my mic was. I was like, I stopped for a second.
Where's
I was
it
like,
gone? Oh, there it is.
Did I sort everybody's mic out and just forget mine? I was like, can't speak. How are you three today?
I'm very well, thank you.
How are you?
Very well. How are you? Yeah.
I'm good. I've been busy. I've been sitting in this chair for about 16 hours a day for the last like 3 days or something.
Jeez.
A combination of work,
Jeez.
video editing, and the other bits and pieces. But yeah, what have your weeks been like? Tell me.
Busy too. Yeah, working really. Just still working from home, like I know a lot of people are doing. But just same old stuff. Sat at my PC a lot of the time, just working, either working or gaming or that sort of stuff. But very similar to you.
So my week went fine up until today.
Until.
You'll get a kick out of this, Saruk. I know you will.
Go for it.
I crashed into myself in my car today.
Only McLeod, right?
All right, wait.
I do.
Big
What
screen
you
for this.
do.
Go for it.
Okay. So
Story time.
Ripped up the driveway, all the tar. So when we moved in, someone tried to hide the fact it basically subsidence going on, and tarred up the driveway. So we were like, okay, we're going to go back to concrete. So we ripped it all up, and that's all right. 3 trips we've done with the trailer. We're on the last trip. Okay. Bit tired, bit fatigued, not thinking, that sort of thing. Put all the bags in the car, link it all up, put it down, set off in the car. All of a sudden, I look in my rearview mirror, fucking trailer's going away from the car. Okay. It disconnected and was going down the street. Now, instinctively, I'm like, shit, the trailer's not on my car. It carries on. Oh, sorry. I brake heavily to be like, oh shit, my trailer. It, of course, carries on and crashes into me. And I now have a ginormous dent in the back of my car from my own trailer.
Amazing.
And your arse.
Oh,
That's McLeod, everybody. everybody.
what a week. He's had the best week.
And the best part, I have dash cam footage of it, so I'm going viral, boys.
Get that up. That's fine. You can do all sorts of stuff with that. Hello, chat. Hope you guys are good.
Hey.
So,
everyone.
Boris.
Ned, hey.
Oh, and Ned.
Nourished, all these people, there's a bunch kicking about, lurking. I sees all. Tonight, I'm going to tell you guys a story.
Ooh.
Story time, guys. So it's
Story time
for
with
you
Saruk.
three and the guys in the chat. I'm going to tell you a tale. And feel free to jump in with any theories, points, criticisms of anybody
Prince
involved.
Philip.
It was Prince Philip. All these sorts of things. Yeah, it's a story. This is a true story. Now, for those that are in the chat, viewer discretion is advised tonight. Okay? There are a few graphic things that I may or may not mention to the full extent but
I think full frontal nudity is against TOS.
yeah,
mate.
I mean, I'm not getting my cock out. Don't worry, like, that's not happening. Right? I'm not. Like,
Damn it.
I'm not.
Just what I wanted.
I know there's some streamers that'll do some mad things for bits, but not me. All right,
Yeah.
it's not me. Guys, we're gonna start off tonight, and I'm gonna take you back nearly 100 years. Okay, to 1922, in a little
Good year.
hamlet in Germany called Kaifek. Kaifek
Okay.
in Germany. It's a small hamlet. You wouldn't even call this a town. Okay, it's about like 40 miles or so away from Munich, and there's a farm there called Hinterkeifek behind Kaifek. Okay, and it's at Hinterkeifek on either the 31st of March or the 1st of April, 1922. That they are doing the wrong way, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm
No,
we-
loud.
We had a change.
Switcheroo.
There you go. Sorted. See,
Oh, we didn't
How the
announce it.
television.
Oh,
Right, I'm glad
no.
you noticed. And
thank you.
we're
Thanks,
not.
Boris.
Very much.
Yeah, good job, guys. We're not 100% sure of if it was on the 31st of March or the 1st of April, but in this small farm outside Kaifek in Germany, a family of 6 were murdered brutally, and where's she going? Ellie's all over the place tonight. A family were murdered brutally, and to this day we still don't know who done it. Now we've got lots of suspects. The Germans say, right, this is a funny thing, we'll get to it, but the Germans say they know who done it, but they don't want to tell us. Sounds legit,
Really?
right? Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
they don't want to tell us. I'll get to all that. But we'll start off. So it's a small German hamlet, no suspects, and by an unknown assailant. Now, in this house, it was a very well-known family. Okay, a very well-known family called the Grubers, whose relatives later, you may or may not know, took over the Nakatomi building in Chicago. Yep. It's okay. Bruce Willis saved the day. It was fine. But anyway, what happened in 1922? This family lived in this farm. Andreas Gruber, the father, head of the household, is 63 years old and was known to the locals as a bit of a cranky old cunt. Okay? He was a bit of a cranky
Is
prick.
that on the record or
Yeah,
just your opinion?
I mean, I'm paraphrasing the cranky old cunt bit. But he was pretty unpopular with the neighbours. He was quite greedy, quite selfish. And there was, well, I wouldn't even say suspicions. There was 100% incest within the family.
Oh.
Okay.
And we will also get to that. The people inside the household consisted of Andreas Grubers, 63 years old. There will be accents, so I'm going to apologise in advance if I offend anybody.
No, don't. I'm a mess.
His wife,
I was going to say, I don't remember
72.
German from high school.
his wife, 72, Celia Gruber. What is it that keeps doing that for? Hang on.
Oh dear.
That doesn't matter. Ellie's just going to get big and small for a bit. It's fine. His wife, 72, Celia Gruber. His daughter, 35, Victoria Gabrielle. His granddaughter, possibly, 7-year-old, also by the name Celia. 2-year-old Joseph Gruber. And 44-year-old Maria Baumgartner, who was the nanny. Okay? Now,
Right.
these 6 were found on, they were found on the 4th of April, 1922. 4 of them, Andreas, Celia, his wife, his daughter Victoria, and his 7-year-old Celia, were found in the barn, brutally bludgeoned to death, and arranged in such a way that they were, how can we say, positioned nicely next to each other and covered with blankets and clothes and things like that. So they were covered. Okay. Maria, the nanny.
Are you taking notes, McLeod?
I was, yes.
Quite right.
Well, he said I'm not allowed to Google, so I thought at least I'll write down the information I get.
Yeah, no Googling. So right.
Oh my god.
Maria Baumgartner, the nanny, and Joseph Gruber, a 2-year-old, were found upstairs in a bedroom, both severely bludgeoned to death. And that was 4 days after they were last seen. Okay? So pretty harrowing. Yeah?
Okay.
Let's go through the timeline a little bit, shall we? Let's go through the timeline. So we go to the 31st of March, when the new nanny, Maria Baumgartner, started work at the farm. Her sister, Maria, gave her a lift there, stayed for a few hours, and then left. And left her there. It was like, back in those days, it was kind of like a live-in nanny sort of situation, you know? It's not somebody that just works till 5. She lives on the farm.
An au pair.
An au
shall
pair,
we
if
say.
you will. Yeah.
If it weren't in Germany.
If it weren't in Germany. Yeah, because I always thought au pairs, were they not like, if it was from somebody from another country, it would come, and that was, like, they had to be foreign to be an au pair, otherwise they were just like
I always
a
assumed that was a
babysitter.
French word.
No,
Yeah, but we use it.
That was sort of
don't we?
French joke. Yeah, well, we use all French words, basically.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
apart from the ones we nicked from
that's
everyone
true.
else.
So it's widely thought to believe that Maria Baumgartner's sister was the last one to see any of them alive.
Okay.
They were believed to have been killed on the night of, or the morning, the night of the 31st of March, or the morning of the 1st of April. Now, I can't stress enough how small this hamlet was. Everybody knew everybody, right? We know those sorts of places now, but can you imagine, like, there's no internet, nobody's really going outside. It's 1920s Germany. They're probably not having a good time of it. You know, it's just after the First World War. Yeah, a bit hungry. But these guys were, in the grand scheme of things, pretty well off. They were known to be pretty well off. It's a farm, you know. Farms do struggle with money from time to time. There's always cash floating around a farm, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So we can move a couple of days to the 3rd of April, where April Fools.
Me too, Kat. Like, literally, it's in my notes.
Local
like,
postman.
weird April Fool's joke.
On the 3rd of April, local postman Joseph Meyer noticed that there was still mail in the mailbox. and he was knocking on the windows. He was like, "Where Grubers? Where are you, Grubers?" Because he hadn't seen your mail is getting called out here, Grubers. You
Mail
know,
is getting
your mail is getting called out.
no
in
one
the
no one
mailbox.
gets called mail.
It's-
He knocked
That
on
one
the
nice warm mail.
he knocked on the window, but he didn't get any reply. He did notice there was smoke coming from the chimney, and when he looked through the window, there was a single plate of food on the kitchen table, but he didn't really notice much of it. He just went about his day. You know, he's a postman, not a social worker, right? The next day, 4th of April,
the 4th of April. Okay.
handyman Albert
You're
Hoffner.
jotting it all down.
Yeah.
It's
On the
good. We
4th
can
of
use it.
April.
First one to come to when we get
Exactly.
on the
Yeah, no. I'll give you.
I'm just taking notes of the meeting, you know?
I'll give you guys a time to jump in with your thoughts after we've done the initial timeline, okay? And
Sure.
review McLeod's notes. I think that's going to be important.
Yeah.
The 4th of April, handyman Albert Hoffner. He actually worked on the farm for a good 5 or 6 hours during that day and didn't notice anything. Didn't see no Grubers. He was like, "No Grubers here. No Grubers." Didn't find any Grubers.
Love it.
Now, he was due to do repair work. He was already planned, so he hung around for an hour, couldn't see anybody, and just thought, "I'll just start working on the machines anyway." So he done it, completed the work, and again left as well. We've got more on him, but we can come back to that later.
I like the sound of Albert Hoffner.
Albert Hoffner. Around 3:30 p.m. that same day, Lawrence Schittenbauer.
Schittenbauer.
Excuse you. But
I
Right.
Don't Schittenbauer on your own doorstep.
bless you.
He actually was a neighbour. I'll give Ellie a second. Ellie's broken.
Yeah.
She's breaking her camera
just,
too.
Just spit the tea back into the cup.
It's
Don't
gone.
do it.
In there. Back in.
Yeah.
It's gone
No.
down.
Live.
It's gone down.
You good?
You're live. Don't.
Sorry about that, guys.
It's all right.
So
It's all right.
Schittenbauer.
Or I think it's actually Slittenbauer, but we'll go with
It's not
Schittenbauer, right?
Schittenbauer where you eat.
Yeah,
That's what we've got.
Schittenbauer.
Schittenbauer. Really.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake.
He was a neighbour, and also what's actually quite important about old Laurie Schittenbauer was he was rumoured to be having an affair with Victoria, the 35-year-old daughter. In fact, so much so, it's a possible that Joseph was his son. Okay, Joseph Gruber was his son.
Okay, Jeremy Carl vibes.
He sent his 2 sons around to check the place to look for the Grubers. They couldn't find the Grubers either. They knocked on the door a couple of times.
Okay.
Blah blah blah. He
Still
didn't-
no Grubers.
he wasn't having that. So he went round himself with a friend of his, and they had to break into the barn, in which they then found 4 bodies, and then he went into the house and then found the other 2. The München police were involved then. They got a phone call, and by the time they got there, there was this is on record as well. So many of the locals had already heard about this and turned up. They were stomping all over the crime scene. They were stomping all over the place. So much so, they'd
That's
even
people nowadays still
prepared food in the kitchen.
What?
Oh, you're kidding.
What?
They'd even
Why
made
would you
food
do
in the
that?
kitchen, right?
That's ridiculous.
So that's where we're at. That's where we're at, guys. We've found the bodies. Bodies found. What the fuck? Why? Yeah, exactly. I don't know why. Maybe
Alright.
the Grubers, they're
Weirdos.
not going to eat this food. We should eat it.
yeah. Yeah.
Free food.
You know, they might have seen some
Literally.
some schnitzel that was going to go off or something. I don't know.
You sure want British?
So-
Nobody likes off schnitzel, right?
My schnitzel.
So first thoughts, guys. Pretty harrowing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty harrowing.
It's harrowing.
A smidge. A smidge.
A smidge harrowing. So a little bit more background. It was, as I say, not just rumored, but in fact on record that Andreas Gruber was having sexual relations with his daughter. So much so they were both actually jailed. They were
What?
jailed. Yeah, they were actually jailed for this. He spent 1 year in jail for incest in 1907, and his daughter actually spent a month in jail in 1907. So it was,
So this was the father and the daughter, right?
yeah, the father and the daughter.
Okay.
And there was strong rumors that the youngest, Joseph, was actually possibly fathered by Andreas himself. The grandfather was the father.
Oh.
Yeah, so there was a lot of weird shit going on in that house. Okay.
Jesus.
Shit right there.
A lot of weird shit. So it's, I mean, this is, as I say, 1920s Germany. It's the hamlet, the town's going crazy with this shit, right?
Okay.
They knew it's
the papers.
They conducted an autopsy. Court physician, I was going to say physician, Johann Baptist Müller. It was established that a mattock was used, and what a mattock is, it's kind of like a pickaxe type thing.
Yeah, it's a
Pickaxe,
small
hammer.
pickaxe, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, type thing,
archaeology
yeah.
like stuff.
Though the weapon wasn't actually found at the scene at the time, they knew that because obviously there was no CSI back then, right? They would have just been like taking skulls and been. It's like you know when kids are putting stuff like blocks through things. They'd have been like,
Yeah.
Well, it fits.
Trying
It
to
fits,
figure out what.
Gary.
Yeah.
this fits
Yeah,
the skull.
Sorry,
yeah.
so hands,
It's just,
hands,
I just
yeah.
imagined like a fat policeman with a notebook being like, Von Skull.
Von skull,
Yeah.
bitte. Yeah. So they did figure out that that's what was being used for that. It actually this guy's a little bit. It did show that 7-year-old Kazilia actually would have survived the initial attack. She wasn't. She was the only one that wasn't actually attacked with that pickaxe. She was hit over the head with something, and she had a cut to her throat. Although that cut wasn't actually deep enough for her to bleed out, and they suspect she would probably lay there for hours before dying of shock. And actually, to the point of they found that she'd actually pulled half her own hair and scalp off herself.
Oh my god! And what she was 7.
You know.
Oh.
Sorry, mate.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what was she? 7 years old? Did you say?
She was 7. Yeah. She was 7.
Oh
Wow.
my god. What, because of the
Fucking
pain,
hell.
I guess?
Yeah.
Well,
There's
'cause it's like slowly they get
There's
hit
a
on the
lot-
head and that concussion, and like you don't know the bleeding on the brain. Like it's
Yeah.
like,
It is actually a medical thing in terms of extreme trauma, especially to like major traumas that this sort of thing can happen. It's all right, Calm. I've got a disclaimer up there.
yeah. Put a disclaimer at the start.
It's already there, and it's on the title as well. Yeah, so it's pretty crazy what happened there. So they didn't have any. They didn't know what happened. They had no murder weapon. They just found the Grubers all as they were.
As they
As
lay.
they were. They were all of them, as say, apart from them, were pretty heavily smashed in. There wasn't much left of them.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, pretty nuts, right? So,
It's awful.
It's the
suspects.
postman. The postman.
Now there are loads of suspects for this one, guys. Right? Loads.
Oh really?
Yeah, there are people that have come forward. There's people that have said this, that, and the next thing. But we're going to go into a little bit of detail on these and how they link to the victims. Okay? First, we shall add that Victoria Gabrielle wasn't a Gruber. It was called Gabrielle because she was actually widowed. She did have a husband, even though she was banging her dad. Cool, right?
Ooh, nice.
Her
Keep it
husband
in the family.
Her husband was Carl Gabriel. Now, Carl was an interesting fellow. We don't know a huge amount about his early days, but we do know that he was in the First World War. And the Germans didn't come off well in the First World War. A lot of people got letters, right? So he was allegedly killed in France by a shell attack in December 1914. And it was after that, when she had heard that her husband died, that she then moved back to her home with her family. He is a suspect, however, because many
But
believe...
he's dead in France.
Is he? So
Is he though?
there was a lot of people that strongly believe that he actually absconded from the army. which was quite a big deal. A lot of people done that, and
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot. I mean, there was a lot of bodies found, should I say, but there were a lot of people that their remains weren't recovered. They were just buried where they stand, or there was a lot of that shit that went on in both World Wars. A lot of really harrowing shit. So the thought is that possibly he had come back, found out about their incestuous relationship, and found out that also the little baby, Carl, not Carl, sorry, Joseph, now actually exists, you know? And so she'd obviously had a baby when he would have still been alive when she'd got pregnant.
Okay.
Okay?
Right. Okay,
No, in
yeah.
fact, that's a lie. Scrap that. No, he wasn't. But she wouldn't. He wouldn't.
Set
be.
that up.
Yeah, but a lot of people think that he came back. And now the reason why that people think he was alive was because he'd always talked about favouring the Russians. He always thought the Russian side was right. He was a big commie, right?
Okay.
Loved all that shit. And there was some evidence to suggest that he'd actually absconded and went over to the Russian side. This is backed up by German soldiers, okay, that had actually came forward when they were released from a prisoner of war camp. They were released in secret by a Russian soldier with a German accent that said he was that he lived on a farm, and had actually, in a drunken moment with them, admitted to killing his family on that farm, and that's why he's in Russia.
What?
Oh.
Okay.
Now,
What?
And he's
we've
a
not got
suspect.
a huge amount of evidence to back that up. We've just got hearsay and
Hearsay,
you know
yeah.
their word for it, and it's gonna be as fuck worse than this. Yeah, it's true. So yeah, that's one possible suspect. Okay, can't be confirmed. Could he have run to Russia and could he have come back, seen his family, seen his missus banging her dad, and then just went fuck it and beat the shit out of a lot of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
fits.
It does.
It does.
I've got some
But-
notes here, and it does fit quite nicely with what I'm sort of putting together.
Let's
Ultimate
move on
motive,
to Laurie Schlittenbauer.
Okay.
Lawrence Schlittenbauer was
Neighbor, right?
neighbor. Was when were they killed? In 1922. Now, big Laurie Schlittenbauer, he lived not far away. You know, it's a farm, so it's not like they're next door to each other. But he was about as classed as neighbours
Couple of
as you're
acres.
going to be.
Yeah.
Okay. He was heavily rumoured, so much so to be having an affair with Victoria on Joseph's birth certificate. In the father field, it just has initials, and those initials are LS.
Okay.
Can you even do that?
1922 Germany.
22. You can do what the fuck you want, I suppose.
You wait till you hear what else the authorities do in a minute. So the investigators really did suspect Lawrence. Now, the investigators said that he was too matter of fact about it. When he had discovered the bodies, when he had discovered once they'd got there, it was as if he was like, "Oh yeah, the group was dead." Yeah,
So right there.
there's some.
It
There's
is a
not like,
well-done
"Oh my
fact."
god," he was just like, "Oh yeah, there's some dead groupers
yeah.
in the barn."
Oh my gosh, that's so creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of what they
It's
were
like,
thinking.
what?
Yeah,
okay.
Some dead
groupers.
guys in the back line.
Now, the people that he went there with, they were quite suspicious.
Mhm.
It had to break the gate. That there was a gate that got them into the main sort of compound, if you like, big area of the farm, and then there was a lock to get into the barn, and they had to break both those locks, okay, because
Okay.
they didn't have keys. However, immediately after finding the 4 bodies in the barn, Schlittenbauer apparently unlocked the front door with a key from a bunch of keys, and this was a quote, suspiciously entered the house. And I don't know how you suspiciously enter a house. You know, are you creeping
You
in?
just go in a fucking house.
Yeah,
That's what you mean.
Okay.
You know, so he suspiciously entered the house alone. When he was asked why he went into the house, he stated
Hide
that
the
he
sex
wanted
toys.
to look for his son Joseph. Okay, he wanted to look for his son Joseph. It is known that Schlittenbauer had actually disturbed the bodies at the scene. He had like moved them. Okay.
Right.
We don't know in what way, but they have said that it's confirmed that he did move the bodies, which obviously could compromise an investigation.
Yeah.
So he was heavily suspected. So much so, it's when you see these shows on the TV and it's like the police always have their man in their head, right? They're like, it's that guy.
Mhm.
Okay, whether
that
it is
guy,
or whether
yeah.
it isn't. Sometimes they make the evidence try to fit him, rather than, or him fit the evidence, should I say, rather than the evidence fit him.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
they did say, though, that he had a very strong alibi. And I looked for the life of me, right? I couldn't find out exactly what that alibi was, but the police were convinced by an alibi.
Okay.
So, as far as we kind of think, okay, and you gotta think, right? If it was him, okay, maybe he goes round and beats the shit out of the incestuous dad that's banging his girlfriend, but he doesn't kill them all and then kill his baby, right?
Yeah, it's a bit. That's just not like anger, is it? It's like
It's not cricket, is it?
Yeah.
It's
That's a hell of a commitment because you got to do it repetitively.
Yeah.
In a short space, like that's like a plan. That's clearly planned, but
How
No,
well
I'm-
was like alerted and got away? Oh gosh,
And we
have-
my window's open.
Yeah, sorry.
we
have-
Sorry.
And we've got to remember that somebody stayed there after the murders. They didn't just go murder somebody and then just bolt. They were in there for days afterwards. Because
Yeah.
the neighbours said for the days after they were murdered, leading up, they consistently saw smoke out the chimney. There was dogs that were... In fact, take a step back.
I was going to say,
Okay.
because when they found the bodies, did they not determine how old the bodies were?
How old the bodies were, or how long they've been there. Yeah, they
Yeah, well, that's so 31st or the 1st, you said, right?
Yeah, around about that.
Yeah.
They're either late on the 31st or early on the 1st. Okay, they know that because Maria Baumgartner, the nanny, it was her sister actually dropped her off that afternoon, and everybody was alive and well then. But it was after that the kids had missed school or something, or there was an appointment that somebody didn't make, and they'd never been seen again. And this wasn't like a family that would like disappear for ages. Everybody knows there's loads of them. This is a small family. It's everybody.
Yeah, yes.
You're always bumping into a Gruber.
Yeah. Oh, the
Yeah,
Grubers everywhere. I walk down their street and the Grubers, they're always there with me, the Grubers, and he fucking his daughter. I mean,
You can tell when they're on holiday.
Oh yeah.
So-
Yeah. Now, we'll take a step back and go back to the morning in which they were found. Okay. Now, they were found around about 3:30, 4 p.m. on the 4th.
Mhm.
Now, let's all remember what happened on the morning of the 4th. Handyman Albert Hoffner was there.
He came and worked.
He was working on all sorts of machinery, all sorts of stuff. Now, he was actually... The police were informed that he was there at that time, but he wasn't actually questioned until 1925. Right? 3 years
That's
later.
a lot of paperwork.
What?
Yeah, he wasn't questioned until
a bit
nearly 3
late.
years later.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Why?
Surely he notices something inside the house. Now, Callum, great point. The statement
Detective
suggests
Callum on
he
the
does
case.
suggest, right? He does suggest that there was certainly somebody there, because when he got to the house, he heard the dogs barking inside. Okay, thank you for the follow, buddy. He heard the dogs barking inside, and that's quite normal. There was only a couple of people these dogs didn't bark for, right? Like, apparently these dogs were always at people. So the dogs were barking inside. He went then round the back of the property to do some work. And so when he got there, dogs were inside, dogs were barking, and the barn door was open. He didn't go into the barn, but the barn door was open. He'd done some work. When he came back round, the barn door was locked and the dog was tied up outside.
All right, someone put the dog out.
Someone put the
Yeah.
dog out.
And
So
shut
was it the
the barn
postman then,
door.
considering the dogs were quiet for people that they knew? Oh no, but it was the same postman.
No
though,
one's
wasn't it?
no dog's ever quiet for the postman. Let's be real.
That's what I mean. So I'm like, I'm thinking, is it the postman then?
Initial theories,
Oh.
guys. Go nuts. What do you think?
Okay.
We've still got more to go, but so far from what you've heard.
Okay. The first thing that hit. Sorry, I'm just going first. Is that all right?
No,
Of course,
you've got the notes, mate.
Okay.
You
Go
crack
for it.
on.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bounce off you. You go.
Found in the barn, positioned nicely. That was a quote.
Well, as nicely as they can be with their head smashed
Okay.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a weird personal touch. That's not
Yeah.
your average
It's
axe
almost
murderer.
apologetic, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's
Yeah.
almost
Kill
like
'em, then
giving
just
them
throw
some
it on-
sort
throw
of
'em on the floor.
respect, even though you've just bludgeoned their heads.
Do you know what it
in or
reminded
whatever.
me of? Has anybody ever heard of the Amanda Knox case? Do you know Amanda Knox?
Oh, that rings a bell.
So
Can I?
she was-
Am I allowed to Google that?
Yeah, well, she was an American that went to Italy, and her and her boyfriend apparently had murdered somebody there, and basically how they were found is she had actually, now I can't remember exactly, she'd covered her up. Now apparently it seems more of a feminine thing to cover a body up if they've murdered somebody, rather than a male. This is what the sort of
Like I don't want to
psy-
look at it, sort
the
of thing.
psychologist thing is
Yeah,
the maternal
yeah.
thing comes
Yeah.
out a little bit, and it tends to be more associated with a female killer than a male killer. That's something that I look, because I thought exactly the same as you, McLeod, that it was
Yeah.
weird. Like, why are you tidying them
I
up?
don't know. I feel like a female would
Yeah.
need a really big motive, though. They're not as explosive as
And
guys.
there's also a physical problem there, because
Yeah.
and I'm going to come to the
Yes.
Matic in a minute, but like it's not that easy to kill someone. Like it's actually quite hard. Not talking from experience.
Don't tell them about the body, McLeod. Don't
You
tell
know,
them where we
just-
buried
the
it.
Oh,
trailer
damn
that
it.
ran you
I've
over
doxed
today.
myself. Yeah.
I've blocked that out for years, McLeod. Why?
What do you mean? It's with the tar now. Nobody knows. Wait, what? So historically, female murderers tend to use things like poison in the night, that sort of thing. Oh no, I've been made full screen. Like I have a big. That was like literally the end of my point. But it tends to be a much easier way to murder someone. Rather than bam bam. It's or just a little bit of arsenic in the tea tonight.
Yeah.
I'd
And like
think
you
as
say,
well,
like-
she'd have to have a massive motive because it's a lot of people you're killing as well. It's not just like the husband cheated on her and then she stabbed him. Like
Yeah.
there's lots of people that needed to be
Yeah.
killed apparently.
And Callum brings up a great point there. So unless you've got them all contained and they can't go anywhere, you've got to
That's
kill
what I
each of them
wondered,
in
yeah.
succession with a single blow, so they don't make any noise
Mhm.
to alert anyone else.
So, yeah, I'll add something to that then.
Yeah, go on.
Apparently, now I don't know how they know this, right?
Okay.
But in other podcasts, a book that I read a few excerpts from, and the police reports, they believe that the four in the barn were in there one by one. They were taken out
Oh.
one by one. And I don't know
I've
how
got
much
something
that
interesting to
adds.
show you in the barn, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Was
like,
there
now-
any drag
it-
trails or anything like where they
no,
dragged the bodies? Is
no,
that-
there was,
is
well, actually, we don't know because half the fucking town came down and were walking all over the
Oh,
place.
right, of
right?
course they did, yeah.
Now,
Shit.
so they were taken there one by one. Now there was a theory that maybe they'd heard a scream from the barn. Maybe one person was in there and they'd heard a scream from the barn, so others came running out. The police actually tested that by screaming in the barn, and you couldn't actually hear from inside the house somebody screaming in the barn.
Okay.
So it wasn't
That
something
takes
like
care of that problem.
Yeah.
Okay, and my last point that I think is of interesting is the use of a mattock,
Mhm.
a primarily farm
Yes.
tool. That's there are better weapons. That
Yeah, it
suggests
seems like
not
that
a lot
was
of
a
planning.
weapon.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna
Yeah.
farm. What do I have? Mattocks. Yes,
Yeah, literally.
that's the
Very
one I
much is.
found. That's the one I'm gonna now bludgeon the. Well, I don't actually know. Obviously, I don't know, but I don't really have too much of a person I'm singling out. But whoever it was, who I'm relatively convinced wasn't a woman, decided, okay, I'm going to do it now. Mattock. That's my that's my knee-jerk reaction.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Like the neighbour is a bit fishy.
Big Lawrence
Maybe
Shittenbauer.
fishy. Shittenbauer.
Yeah.
Why is Big
Oh,
you
Shittenbauer
shit
fishy
what
to
you
you,
eat.
Toasty?
Well, he's just like when you said when he found the bodies and stuff, he was just like, "Oh look, the
there.
bodies are
Mr.
there."
Grobers, okay.
And then and he might have known
But
about
then
the barn where you can't get the screams and stuff like that. So he might have known, Ellie might have known a
But
lot
then
about the
if,
property and the way to get hold of the mattock and stuff.
But then if it was kind of like a no remorse, like, oh yeah, they're dead, why would he cover them up?
Shock's weird though. Shock does weird things to you in the moment.
Yeah.
And he stayed there for a few days.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so I
Also-
can't
could
see
have
it being the
been,
neighbour.
could have been,
That's
Yeah.
weird.
could have been the guy
Unless
coming back
neighbour
from
didn't
World War
just
One,
said that the house was running as usual.
staying there for a few days. Why would you stay there for a few days unless you needed a place to stay? Like if
Big
you've just
Carl.
come back from somewhere or
Big
Yeah,
Carl
that's
Gabriel.
awesome.
Big Carl.
Big Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big Carl didn't have anywhere to stay because he's defecting back
Yeah.
from Russia just to kill his ex-family.
Well, they think
And so
that
like,
he'd
oh, this is a
possibly-
free house now.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
theory on that is that he'd actually went there first before going to Russia.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, so he'd went there, then defected. There was, as I say, there was soldiers in. Initially, this was washed. This rumor, because there was soldiers that apparently said that they saw him die, but it was later found that
Okay.
those soldiers weren't actually in the same regiment as him. They weren't on the same battlefield as him. Yeah,
Okay.
like
People like lying in 1922,
yeah,
didn't
a
they?
lot. They were.
Yeah.
It turned out
what
that
else,
was.
what
that
else
was
you gonna do?
People had a.
Yeah.
There was reports that they had seen him, that he had been seen after his alleged death. So that's again a bit weird, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
a
with there
bit
being
weird.
no photographs, they used to just do that, didn't they? And then make up their own paperwork, take another identity, because you didn't have any photographs then.
Well, I looked a little bit into that sort of stuff. That apparently happened quite a lot in the old world WWs. There was a lot of that shit. Folk were like, nah, I don't want to fight no more. I want to go to the Russians. So there was a lot of that stuff. So Big Carl is a theory. There's numerous. Now there was I didn't actually have this noted because I personally don't think that there's much to it. There was Crescence Rieger, a female who was actually the old nanny.
Yeah.
She's not an old nanny, right? She's just
Not
a
an
nanny.
old, like,
She was
yeah.
the old nanny, who was there before Maria got there. She'd worked there from November 1920 to about September 1921, and she left the place because she said she couldn't cope with the family anymore, and she thought the place was haunted. Okay.
Okay.
Ooh,
Now she
that takes a turn, doesn't
she
it?
said that there was a couple of local guys.
Adam,
What turn does that possibly take?
There was
ghosts did it.
That she's a weird woman who believes in ghosts. That's
There
the only
was-
thing that says.
well, no. She said
She
said
left
I'll
'cause
explain
she
the
left
ghost.
And then the ghost was like,
I'll
shit,
explain the ghost.
now I've been discovered and murdered the whole family. So no one else.
I know
Oh.
ghosts. Ghosts aren't a thing though. Anyway, sorry.
They killed the Grubas though.
Debate.
So we've got. So basically, yes, she said there was two sort of local criminals, if you like, guys that were like notorious for like robbing places and all sorts of stuff. They were kind of at her for information about the Grubers. She claimed a lot of people done it, right? So I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but there was all sorts of people that Crescent Rieger was like, when I was at the Grubas and Mr. Gruber, he fucks his daughter, and then we go and it was horrible, and there was the ghosts in the attic. She thought there was ghosts in the attic, and we'll get to some strange things after I talk about the final two suspects that I've got down here. Okay,
Callum
Was one of them the dog?
Callum was one of them.
It was Kel.
No,
Oh, the same like voice,
it
a
was
bit
Callum.
low.
It was in Germany in 1922.
It's with the transistors.
There we go.
I don't know if
Interesting.
you
One
guys
question.
got that. They're saying my volume's a little bit low.
I can hear you okay, but it might be a touch low. But you guys are all coming through in the same feed, so it'd be on your end that you'd have to turn it up, I think. If you
Oh,
can.
yeah. Or just ASMR it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
there,
just whisper
boys.
it to you.
Just get not whisper. I mean, just get closer and talk at the same volume.
There
shall
was-
Start
start
screaming
from
into the mic.
do you guys think only one person done it?
Ooh, I didn't think of that. There could have been teams. There could have been a team of peeps
Teamwork.
or two. Well, again,
Teamwork's
like,
hard to get away with because you just get
yeah,
one
there'd
in
be
the
more
corner.
Evidence.
You get one in,
And
and
I
you
suppose
apply
it's-
pressure, and you like fold on the other guy. Fold on the other guy.
It's like-
We'll knock it down from being shot at the post to only 30 years in prison. You go, okay, yes, it was me and Dave did it. You know, that's why I never like the idea of multiple people murdering.
Yeah,
That's why I
and
never
I
get other
suppose
people
it's-
involved.
Exactly. Well, I suppose it depends on the house. Though, if there was a struggle in there, if you see there was multiple, like it depends where they was killed, like the bodies. If it depends on the angles and stuff, you could sort of tell if bodies have. Oh, but they're being moved, aren't they? They're in the.
They've been
Yeah,
moved.
but you wouldn't know.
Everyone's
there
had a
must
good
be
look.
some-
They've nicked the good
there
gold
must
off
be
the
s-
chains and stuff.
The Grubas had lots of
Oh
nice
shit!
scenes.
Yeah. I was gonna say there must be a way you can like sort of, but yeah, if everyone's been in there, moved it, yeah, you wouldn't know.
What
would
if
you?
that old nanny and then the guy that went to Russia got like teamed up
Wow.
Team Russia?
and was like, let's just revenge kill these bitches?
They prefer going by TR rather than Team Russia, just to let you know.
Shall we add some more characters into this?
Yes,
Go on.
do
More,
so.
yes, please.
There were two brothers. You'll like this. They were the Gump brothers.
Brilliant.
Forrest Gump.
The Gump brothers. Their shrimping business didn't go so well.
Fried shrimp, boiled shrimp.
Bubble Gump.
Yeah.
Forrest
Now,
Gump.
a man whose name is probably not that popular anymore, Adolf Gump, he was
Ooh.
questioned on April the 9th, 1922. So not long after, he was questioned in connection with the murders. Because again, he was rumoured to be having a relationship with Victoria. Okay?
She gets about, doesn't she?
She's a
I was gonna
slut.
say
She's busy, busy
But it's
girl.
okay.
Legs closed.
Listen,
She busy.
she's... Her husband just died in the war, allegedly. She was all about
No
it.
excuse.
You know, it was much better than taking a yard from her dad, right? You know,
Oh yeah.
let's be serious.
You don't
Yeah.
say it like that too.
Not genocide, Adolf. No. Adolf Gump.
Different.
He was a brother. Now, Adolf Gump had actually. Now, this is a line from the report that I read. It's that Adolf Gump had participated in the murder of 9 peasants in Silesia. Okay. Now,
Nice.
I don't know where that is. I didn't
Okay.
Google that. I was just stuck at the murdering 9 peasants. I was like, did we still
I
call
know,
people
right?
peasants then?
Does that exist? That sounds like an old bit of the HRE, actually.
You know,
Silesia.
Silesia.
Okay.
Celestia.
They couldn't
The
rule out.
historical region. Yeah.
They couldn't rule out his involvement. He was instructed to provide an alibi. He wasn't able to.
Okay.
In 1951, so quite a bit later, the prosecutor actually investigated his brother, Anton, as well,
Mhm.
for this. Now, the reason why the sister of the Gumps, Christiana Meyer, claimed actually it was a
Oh.
deathbed confession that her
Ugh.
brothers had committed the murders. As a result of that, Anton was remanded in custody, but Adolf had actually died in 1944. And after a short time, Anton was released because they couldn't actually prove he participated in the crime. They think that if they did, it was going to be... Yeah. It's the Hinterkeifek Murders.
Good luck spelling all that.
Yeah, good job. Good luck. If you put Dead Grubers 1922, I'm sure you'll find
Dead
it.
Grubers.
Dead
Now,
Grubers.
He was now they
Bruce
thought
Willis.
Like who done
they
it?
thought that their involvement was possibly to do with either the relationship with Victoria or money orientated. A question you've not asked is nothing was taken that they could see. Now there was
Oh,
there was
I just
plenty-
assumed that like all the gold lockets and stuff had
Nah,
been taken by
there
the
was-
mass of people.
No,
Okay.
there really wasn't. There was actually quite a large, or I don't know exactly how much, but they described it as a substantial amount of cash on
Mm.
the site. Which again, for a farm, that's not like there's always cash floating
Unheard
around
of.
farms. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like back then,
yeah.
you know, buying the Gruber's
But not
chickens.
like a substantial amount though.
Yeah, I mean they were quite
Yeah,
well
but-
off. They were seen to be quite
Aren't
well
we
off.
getting to
Yeah,
the point where
but-
wheelbarrows of money can't buy bread, though?
Yeah, that's true. But when
Ah.
you're the guys that make all the food in 1922 Germany, people
Yeah.
are still, you know, you're gonna hoard the Gruber's money. But there was nothing taken. So again, but it was just down to the deathbed confession. I thought was quite interesting. You know, if
Yeah.
your brother, that's it, buddy. Yep. If you thought your brothers had done something like that, you'd be a bit like, you know, if you wouldn't make that shit up on your
Yeah.
deathbed, right? It's a bit weird.
Yeah, why
It's a bit
why do it
strange
when you're
and
about to die?
specific.
Like just like why lie if you was to lie about it? Like just as you die, just say right, one last fuck you to my brothers. Like, oh, they did it by the way. But it's like, why would you do that? Like,
I don't know.
How was the relationship?
Fuck you
Like,
guys.
yeah, like you
Perhaps they
guys.
just put her in a bad nursing home. Was like, you guys were nearly accused of that thing. Fuck you. Yeah, I'm going to say this just as I die. You should
Oh, she
have
could
spent
be-
the extra $300 a month.
She just could. She could have been delirious
She
though.
were
Like,
gonna kill her if she said something.
No, that seems the most likely thing. Yeah, through her
Yeah.
life, she was worried they would do her in too.
hmm.
It's weird. Or she was just a bit nuts.
Yeah,
throwing
she
it
could
out
have
there.
believed it herself, and now she was dying.
Yeah,
She was going to be
like she's
senile
heard it
and
all
just
her
thought,
life.
"Oh, it was like my
Yeah.
brothers killed them guys." Like she just believed it because she was dying. Like you don't know how the
Sure.
brain works.
Her brother annoyed her. Yeah.
Oh yeah, literally.
I don't
Could
know. I
very
don't know
well be.
why I'm not that compelled by that. That's
No,
for some reason
no.
I wasn't.
Here's a strange one. Now, it's the thing about this one is I just found this one interesting to mention because he does have ties to the area, but only quite loose.
Okay.
He's not being tied to knowing the Grubers as such. Or even
Is this Adolf or someone different?
This is somebody else. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
This is a guy called Paul Muller. He made joggers.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Muller.
Now, author Bill James wrote a book called The Man from the Train. Now, he actually alleges that Paul Muller was responsible for the murders. He says he done quite a bit of research into this. The reason being is the murders are similar to those done by a serial killer in the United States between 1898 and 1912. Now, ridiculously similar. Now, it was...
Okay.
They said it was in the States. It was Colorado, and then quite far away from there in Kansas, there was a couple of people murdered as well in a similar way. That they said it was probably down to a sort of sadistic, necrophiliac attraction to prepubescent girls.
Ooh.
Okay.
So pretty bad shit.
Okay.
Now he
Yeah.
was in the States. He was a German immigrant. Okay, he was a German immigrant, and might have departed the US to go back home after a lot of investigators and journalists started to sort of notice these patterns and maybe started to investigate. They believe that he maybe went home and he was originally from around that region. So that's quite interesting as a possibility. So they're your main suspects, guys. They're your main suspects. Over to you for it. There's a couple of other strange things that happened prior to the murders. But I'll let you that percolate with you guys for a couple of minutes.
I think the one on the deathbed that could just be crazy. So I think I might be ruling her out. It's weird that she said it, but she, there's more
People say
compelling
weird shit.
evidence, especially with like the neighbor and like Carl and stuff like that coming back. And
Yeah, I mean, people said Carl was dead, and they weren't even in his regiment. So
yeah,
people say
exactly.
shit.
But what do you think?
I'm interested in Paul Muller. How similar are we talking? I mean, you said weirdly similar.
Beaten to death with a pickaxe, a small pickaxe,
Okay, and sort of bodies laid about in the same sort of way, that sort of thing.
and
Okay.
covered.
So here's my thing. In 1922, you don't just Google serial killers to copycat. And also, outside of the
Great point.
continent news, especially in 1922 Germany,
Ain't gonna be about
Doesn't-
that.
no.
It's not going to
And
be
if-
specific, is it?
I wondered
Yeah.
that. How
Yeah.
would they even know about a series of other murders in a different country? They just
Yeah,
wouldn't know
so that's the
about
thing.
it, would they?
I mean, I haven't read this guy's book, and have we got a code to get a discount for this book? Are we
This was
peddling
quite
that?
recent as well. This was in like 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm quite persuaded by that. The idea of a copycat in 1922, the fact that he was, you said a German national, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah, he's a German national, likes prepubescent girls, and she was the one who was, murdered slightly differently.
Yeah.
Do we know if she was molested?
I was
We
gonna say,
don't.
Can you tell if there was?
We don't. I mean,
We
it
don't,
was like
yeah.
it was 1922. I mean, it's not as if like I'll get on to a little bit about their forensics, what they tried to do, but it's not like now when it's like, hey, don't touch nothing, especially the cum. Like they didn't do that. Like,
Bottle it
Lord.
all.
don't touch anything. In fact, what actually had to happen is so they could be inspected further. They actually removed the heads from all 6 of the victims boxed them up,
Hey.
and shipped them to Munich.
What the fuck?
Ooh.
The heads actually then went missing.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh.
Great.
Did anybody?
Okay.
Did the Gruber's heads come back in the post? No.
I was
No.
gonna say.
No.
Could
No.
Can we get a discount on the coffins then? Just for the
Slightly
shoulders,
shorter
maybe.
ones.
You know, yeah. Yeah, so they
fifth
were,
off.
but apparently there was. I thought that they went missing. They were held by the police in Augsburg, I think, and that they were possibly destroyed by a bomb in the Second World War later on.
Okay.
So that's
okay.
a
Okay.
theory,
Sense,
but
yeah.
or they got lost in the post. Imagine
Yeah,
being
well,
that
that
guy
was
though.
Shitty
Imagine being the
Royal
guy.
Mail.
Royal Mail.
I've-
Fucking
German
Royal
Mail.
Mail.
Has anybody seen the
German mail.
Gruber's heads? No.
Freaking FedEx, you know.
So-
They can't keep track of anything.
I know
It's
So
just
some
put the
kid
right
on
stamp on
Christmas
the head.
opening up the fucking Gruber's heads.
Yeah.
It's what I wanted.
That's not what I asked for.
So that was.
Wanted a doll.
So yeah, they
I'm
were
not
they were
sure if
actually
I-
all buried
yeah.
together, including the nanny as well, which I thought was a little bit weird. Now they were all buried in the same cemetery, and the nanny was actually buried alongside them. Now I thought that was a bit weird because you would think like she had a family, right?
Yeah,
You
I
know what?
suppose if you live with them though, and it depends on.
She only lived with them
Did you
for
have
a
a family
day.
though?
Well, she had a sister that dropped her
Mm.
off. I mean, I know it's like
Oh, that's
1920s
true.
Germany, and I know a lot of people's families were like decimated and stuff. But you would think that there was maybe somebody
It
that,
could-
that wanted to. There was
Could be
something I didn't really
tradition, maybe.
read anything about this, but do you know when I researched the story? Now there was nothing to suggest this, like in anything that I read. But like a crazy theory that I came up with was well, she was there a day, right?
Mhm.
She wasn't from the area, by the way, as well. Maria Baumgartner, the new nanny,
Hmm.
was she escaping something? Someone like whether it's a
Oh.
violent husband or a
Yeah.
violent something. The one reason that she was actually placed on the bed upstairs after she was murdered. So she was murdered elsewhere in the room, and then she was actually lifted up and placed on the bed. They were all killed.
Quite-
So it's did somebody come and find her and try to bring her home or try to do some? Do you know what I mean? I read that nowhere. By the way,
Yeah.
I read that absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, that's
I
just you.
But
I
still,
just
like,
thought,
it's just a theory.
that's a
yeah.
bit like the first day she comes back. Did somebody come down? I was like, well, if I can't have her, the Grubers aren't having her either. Because it's all very weird about like it's the fact we've got to remember a 2-year-old's head was smashed to a pulp.
Yeah.
Some fucked
Like,
up
that's-
person,
That's what I mean. It
Yeah.
can't just be.
I can't
a
see
normal-
that being a woman. I know that sounds really cliche because like
Yeah.
the maternal
No,
thing,
but I bet-
I just can't. And then,
I
then
don't
again, I
know,
can't see why a
like,
man would do it either. So
Yeah, like you never know. Like people don't know their own strength, do they? I suppose. Like even women, like adrenaline and stuff. Like, but again, like, what's the motive there though? Like, why bludgeon a 2-year-old and like, do obviously what happened to that 7-year-old and stuff? Like,
I'd have
she's
to know
bled
what
out and,
things
like,
were leading up to it. Like, what was the motive?
Like Carl, maybe because he come back
Lady
from World,
Ellie
he could have
did
saw
it.
some shit in World
Lady
War
Ellie.
One,
It was
and
Lady
he
Ellie.
could have had like PTSD. So coming back, it could have triggered it, and he just started going ham. But he don't.
You went a bit more than ham, mate. Jeez.
So-
Yeah,
It was-
yeah, it's true.
They
Bit big.
eventually found the murder weapon.
Okay, where did they
Okay.
find it?
In the
Yeah,
attic.
where was that? Of the house.
Attic.
What kind of policemen are
the
these?
ghosts.
Oh,
It was the
There's not
ghosts.
even a ladder
Ghosts.
fitted, guys.
Now this goes back to
Won't
the
bother going
old
up there.
nanny, Christina Reiger's statement that she thought there was ghosts in the house because they actually for a long time heard noises and what they thought was footsteps in the attic. And big Andreas Gruber, he went up there and couldn't see anything, couldn't find anything, but did report it to the police. Okay, he did report it to the police because he thought it was weird. The police found in the attic. This was a little while later, just before they pulled. For the record, they pulled the whole place down. They leveled the place. Afterwards, like they do in a lot of situations like this. You've heard it in a lot of brutal things happening. Somebody's not going to be like, so can I move in? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Just get
I'm
rid,
not-
rebuild. Like,
Would-
yeah.
So going cheap then in the Gruber place. It's not going to work like that. They raised it to the ground. They found that in the attic. They actually also found a not inconsiderate amount of human feces in the attic.
Huh.
Do you know what? When you
Okay,
said like
so
ghosts and
someone's-
stuff, and they found the murder weapon, I instantly thought
Someone's
someone's
living in the
living up
fucking attic.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And has
someone-
eventually murdered the family and thought, right, I'm gonna sit in here live here for a while. This should have been my
But-
house.
I mean, if your immediate
he didn't
thought
find-
was it was the ghost, you're a fool. Yes, it obviously is someone living there.
But he didn't.
Or
He didn't
it's a
find anyone though
ghost.
when he walked around, unless he could. He just really could hide really well. But if
I
someone's
thought they
looking
had a
around for
secret
something
kid.
specific, like
You know, they had some secret kid that was
Ooh,
locked up in the
yeah.
attic, grew up, went crazy, and killed them all.
Yeah, because if that girl was like fucking everybody, what if she had some child that they just couldn't
oh,
bring
And she was-
especially
themselves
sleeping
she
with
was
a like
beasted
sleeping with a
by her
dad,
dad,
and
like
kept it in the attic?
and like yeah, like
feral
incest as
child.
well.
You know, it was like she actually, when she was 16, so years before, she did report to the police that her dad had assaulted her. Now, back in 1922, not much is kind of done about that sort of stuff, but she reported that when she was 16. Now, like, I'm no expert, but from whenever you see these sorts of things, it did just happen at 16. You know, like that's
Yeah,
not
it
when
was-
this
it was
started.
developed,
Like,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get any answers in the comments about whether that happens or not, because
No.
How old was she when she died?
she was 35. Yep.
Okay.
She was
But
35.
still
So she was
getting groomed
they were
from
seeing
No,
it
I'm
it
just
as
Ellie
thinking,
does
if
maths.
she did have, if she
to
had
young
a child,
adult,
no,
like-
yeah, you can. Ellie's not doing maths.
I saw it. I saw the maths. I saw the
Ellie
maths.
attempted the maths, and then she went.
The cogs.
Nope.
it was seen as it
No,
was
'cause
seen
I'm
as a
too
much.
consensual
I was just
relationship
thinking,
between
like,
her and her father.
What if
That's
she
what I mean,
had
she could
a
have had, like, a-
child at 16, 17, and they kept that child in the attic,
Because it could have been deformed,
and then
for
that
example, if
child's
it was
now
part
like
of the
a
family.
teenager when they die. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
far
like-
fetched,
would then
but you
be-
know,
A teenager.
a couple of other little just bits
Why
and
would you report
pieces.
it to the police though? Sorry.
Sorry, no,
Well, at
no.
16, that could have been the first time that she'd been like sexually assaulted or something.
No,
I
no,
find
sorry,
that hard
sorry.
to
No, I mean
believe.
the noise in the
Father.
attic. If
Oh,
you knew
the
about
music
it
thing.
and he's been
Yeah.
up there forever and he's like, just
Maybe
to
he felt
appease everyone
pressure
who's
to.
hearing footsteps.
Yeah, maybe he done it. Maybe he done that to appease President Stryker, the nanny.
Yeah.
Maybe,
the
but the nanny
previous
would have
nanny,
known,
but-
right?
Oh no,
Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no,
I
sorry,
don't
yeah.
think it was that, but I think it's an interesting theory.
Hmm.
There was quite a few other police reports that were made by the Grubers, and the Grubers. I can't say Gruber without saying Gruber.
Gruber.
They woke
Gruber.
up one morning, and they'd found, or Andreas Gruber had found footprints in the snow leading away from the house.
Okay.
Which he thought was
Okay.
weird because there was no footprints coming to the house, but there was footprints going away from the house.
Yeah.
It could
yeah.
have just snowed and it covered them up, right? But then it's like
Yeah.
somebody would have had to have been in the house for a period of time
Yeah.
for it to
and no
snow
one
and then
would
walk
come
away
in.
again. But he reported that to the police. There was he reported a strange man that kept standing at the edge of his property looking in a number of times, actually. But remember, these guys, the Grubers were targets for criminals because they were seen as wealthy. You know, so he was
Yeah,
always
okay.
aware that
Yeah.
this was a possibility. There was something else as well that was weird. There was a newspaper from Munich, right, that was left on his doorstep. That was a newspaper from that day or the day before, I think. And it says weird, but there was nobody in the town that subscribed to that newspaper, and that newspaper doesn't make it as far as there. Nobody gets that newspaper, right? I know it sounds weird, but he even reported that to the police. Okay, so there was just a lot of little bits and pieces.
Why
Yeah,
would you report all that?
because he
trivial
thought he was
shit to
being
police?
targeted in some way.
Yeah.
It's a little
Paranoia.
bit weird. So until this day, we don't truly know. Now, the German Police Academy, they actually
Do
used
the
this
noises,
case.
Toast. Do the noises.
No. Michael Winslow.
Yeah, I saw him live. Michael
what?
Winslow live on a. So, yeah, he was at the Edinburgh Festival and he was doing bits and pieces.
Oh, but I'll see.
Yeah, it was good. Anyway, the German Police Academy, they used this as a test case. Now, they've used sort of more modern forensics techniques, and they say that they know that they've got a prime suspect. They say they won't release his name out of sensitivity to those in the family that remain alive. So it could be that they know who'd done it, but maybe the person that done it's dead, so they don't want to say, by the way, your dad's a killer, you know?
Yeah.
But
But still, it's
weird,
it's
right?
It's so
closure
far
a
away in
way,
the family
like-
now, though, that it doesn't matter anymore. does it,
Yeah.
really?
You would think so. It's nearly 100 years.
But
Yeah.
it'll become a matter of public record surely soon.
Oh, you would think so. It depends. Does that work from when it happened or when they find out?
And to be fair, that works in this country. So also
yeah.
talking about German law,
Yeah,
I
that's
have no
a fair point.
idea.
Yeah. So there's a
But
lot to it.
yeah.
So that's the story of the Hinterkeifek Murders. It's if it was just like a bunch of guys killed in a barn, you'd be kind of like, that sucks. But there's just so many little bits and pieces
Yeah.
and like twists
Yeah.
and turns in there that make it quite an interesting one. That's why people are still talking about it 100 years later. So
Yeah, like.
thoughts? You've creeped me out now. That was my
I think someone
plan.
was living in the attic. I think they had a. I think that.
No,
The
I don't
daughter
know
had a
because
kid.
that guy murdered
No.
another family very similar way, and
Yeah.
like
There's a
That's
man
very
across the
strange.
road answering to the name of Paul, who then managed to live in their attic, planning his murder with what he had to hand. It falls apart a bit there, but yeah, with a mattock.
With a
well,
mattock.
that's the thing. He could have, but again, he doesn't really go in that area. It was like loosely connected to the area, so it's not like he was there a lot. So,
Mhm.
but what was in the attic then? Like, but that could totally not be linked though. That could be something
That could
totally
have been
different. It could be an
part of the
animal.
abuse,
could
like
be-
a
Just-
2-year-old,
okay.
like putting them in the attic or whatever.
Yeah,
There was
like,
also a
it shit? Was it
penknife
human
something
shit?
that was found as well in the attic.
what?
Was it
Sorry.
human?
A pen
shit in
knife.
the attic?
That was
Oh.
found. Yeah, that was found in the attic. That the reason why that was important for a bit was because Anton Gump complained that he'd lost his penknife, right? To a
Right,
bunch of people
okay.
in a pub. Remember the Gumps? He
Okay.
complained that he'd lost his
Yeah,
penknife.
yeah.
However, Miss Stryger, the old nanny, had actually come and testified and said that actually she's seen that penknife around the farm loads. So that wasn't much of it.
Okay.
So, but that was upstairs as well. One
And
other
the
thing.
feces was it? Oh yeah, go for it.
One
Oh,
other
yeah,
thing
one other
is
thing.
something else that went
like one other
missing a few days before was a bunch of keys.
Anything specific for these keys?
Just a bunch
Did
of
they go
keys
anywhere?
that included
mean-
keys to their house and the
What, for the-
barn.
Oh,
And
Not
that's
unlike Mr. Schittenbauer.
Schittenbauer.
Schittenbauer, suspiciously used to enter the building
Yep. Went on his own.
on his own.
After they had to break the lock of the barn, but then for some reason he
Yeah.
then tried to sneak in there
Hmm.
without anybody noticing.
That's weird.
However, though, if you'd done it, it's not as if he's like, oh no, I left my cum in the bathroom. You know, like they've been
No,
there for
but-
days, right?
No, but that's like a
Like-
major
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
that people say still now. They return to the crime scene.
Yeah, but
Scene
he'd have
of the
returned
crime.
before then, right? Oh, I mean, he did. Somebody was living there.
Well,
Like,
yeah, we did, I
found-
guess.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
They kept,
yeah.
they
And,
kept
like-
having the night of it.
All the animals were fed. There was food put out for the sort of cattle
I forgot
and all
his
this sort of
toothbrush.
stuff. So yeah, all these. That's why this is a thing that I thought that it was Carl for a bit, because you'd think he'd be like, I don't know, because he was part of the family in a way. At some point, he was like, I like that dog. Like, you know, he's still gonna feed the chickens. And so somebody done all that, by the way. Somebody fed
Yeah,
the
just
animals
putting
on the
themselves
farm.
back into the family
Yeah.
by force.
Well, yeah, like Callum said, it covering before a murder suicide, but you can't
Yeah.
kill yourself with a mattock, can you? Really? You can't just.
And then hide it in the attic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then or unless you work as a team where you want to do it but make it look like a murder, so someone else comes in and moves the bodies after you've committed. But that's just
Well, what if because the murder suicide thing? If you're going by that, what if they killed all of them with the mattock thing, hid the mattock in the attic, then like laid down and I don't know, took poison or something, and then they're all dead.
But
But
They
then
were-
no, they all got
they
bludgeoned.
were all
They've got a
smashed.
No, they all were
Yeah,
bludgeoned.
yeah.
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 that
Apart
Apart
was
from
the
one,
reason.
apart
that
from
was-
little
yeah.
Cazelia, she was hit on the head, but she wasn't like killed of it. There was
Oh,
an
she's the
attempt
one
at
that suffered, didn't she?
slight cutting her throat, but as I said, it was more superficial.
Hesitance.
Yeah,
Then that's weird.
Mm.
I've
Like
had
it
no
was a serial
problem
killer.
murdering the whole of this family, and I've got to the, you know, that's all I could muster.
yeah,
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, I,
yeah.
I
Little girl
don't, I don't want to do it unless the
And
little
then she
girl did it. Well, that was her
and then
attempt
she
at
did
murder
it,
suicide.
And then she tried to kill herself and couldn't quite do it.
Mm. See you later, Ned. Take it easy. Thanks for
Cheers,
stopping by the way. I know you're off.
No worries.
Hey, Squire.
Bye, Ned.
So yeah,
Thanks,
it's
Squire.
a weird one, right? And
It
it's,
is
I
a
think
weird
it's
one.
weirder
There's so many
because
different avenues, like so many different people, like as proper suspects, and it's like
Mm.
it could be any of them. Like,
being 1920s Germany, right? You
Mhm.
kind of think, well, that kind of adds to the intrigue in my book because there's not as much going. You can't like you've not got CCTV, you've not got like all the other bits and pieces, you know, the forensics and stuff. I'm not doing that. So
go on, Cyril.
We'll
We'll meet
Do
halfway.
Do it. Do
We'll
it.
meet. We'll meet
It's a
halfway.
Ned.
Oh, wait,
Oh,
wrong
yeah,
way.
you're all...
Hey, which way? That way.
Go.
Can we do it?
Oh, one sec. Yeah. Nope. This way.
Sorry,
There we are. There we are. Come on,
It's a
Ned.
bit. It's a bit big, man.
It's a bit dodgy.
Yeah,
I'll
this
go
is a
closer
bit-
to that.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like real close.
There we are. Oh,
Yeah, got
God,
messy.
that's messy.
That was messier than a Gruber's barn, that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, too
Too
soon.
soon.
No, it really isn't.
Too
really.
soon, bro.
Is
100
any,
years
too soon, 1922.
How-
22. Two
You know
more
the-
years. 100 years.
You know the little girl that was like not really killed and died
Half
really
murdered.
slowly.
Yeah.
Mm.
How old was she?
7.
7.
Was she a big 7? Do we know?
Was she,
what
was
you
she like
saying?
a 12?
Was she like a
Well,
sexy
like
7? Is that what you're trying to say?
fat
here?
What were we trying to
No, I'm
say?
just thinking.
Was she like a
because
60?
Wouldn't it be easy to be like, oh my gosh, Dad, look, there's something happened in the barn. Bash.
Could have been. Could have been.
And
We
then,
don't
But
know.
how do you-
Mom, something's happened to Dad. Bash.
Yep.
But 7-year-old though, trying to put a mattock through a skull. It's,
Yeah,
quite a lot of
no.
There's
force to do
children
that.
that
Same-
are proper
same problem as
psycho
the female
murderers.
problem.
Like
That's-
there's children
that's
Yeah, but
that
they-
murder their entire families. Like it happens.
Yeah, but very quietly with knives and things, not blood force trauma with a mattock.
And then moving the bodies and like particular ways of putting the
necessarily.
maid on the bed. Like, how could a 7-year-old lift a fully like grown woman
It's-
onto a
well,
bed?
actually, to be fair, that is
True.
where the sort of the single perpetrator, because it's hard moving bodies. Like they're
yeah,
real.
especially
heavy.
after death. Like,
I know a
like
lot
with
about
rigor
moving
mortis
bodies.
sets in.
Yeah,
Yeah, they become real heavy.
Become a bit
don't
of a
they?
dead weight, doesn't it?
it's
They
yeah.
weren't all murdered in the barn, were they? They were just moved to the barn.
No, sorry.
Yeah,
they,
that's what I
they,
mean.
no, they were murdered in the barn. They were just moved
Right.
within the barn to.
In the bar.
I was going to say a nicer
Ah,
place, but you know.
right.
you're in the
Okay, so
barn.
okay,
So-
so that fits with
Yep.
still one person. You know, it does it over
So
a period
yeah,
of time.
Definitely
They weren't-
someone
they weren't
else.
They couldn't
taking
have
it.
all been together though. Like,
Yep.
it must have been one by one because if one person dies in a room of a barn, everyone will just bolt, won't they? But how the fuck
Yep.
did you lure them to the barn
Apparently,
one
like
by
the police
one?
are certain that they went out to the barn one at a time. How they know that, I don't know.
Yeah,
But there is it
Hmm.
seems to be the generally agreed consensus that that's what happened.
it sort of makes sense. Yeah,
I don't really know how, but the fact is, remember, it's like the crime seems decimated. You know, the locals were walking through
upstairs.
Grubers.
yeah.
You know, they cooked in the kitchen.
I mean, there must have been one by one though, because if there was no obvious like distress, and you couldn't,
Yeah.
even
couldn't
if you were
hear
a big
screams from
guy,
the barn either.
You couldn't get all of them to stay in the same place and not run off and stuff. So,
So it must be someone they know then, because
Gruber.
you have to lure them into the barn.
It's someone you trust. Yes, that's true.
So it must be someone you know and trust, like with the keys getting into the house, obviously, like knowing the barn, and like it must be
Say
someone, and then
Gruber
hiding
again.
into the attic and
It's
stuff. Like,
Grubers.
but Gruber.
Gruber.
Anyone else?
What
got
was on the
anything they want
forensics?
to-
Did you say?
Sorry?
You said the forensics. There was forensics. You said she found something interesting on the forensics. I know you said the heads were lost, but did they find anything specific?
Not really. Just that she was bashed in. I think the interesting thing was that one of them wasn't actually killed with the same murder
Like,
weapon as the rest of them.
Yeah. So why
Uh,
that? Why though? Then yeah, like it's like. Anyway, yeah, Gus Rook. What do you think? Well, you know, but what do you think?
Well, he doesn't know.
I
Nobody
don't
knows.
know.
Nobody
Oh yeah, you don't know. yeah,
I
of course,
think
that's
it was Schittenbauer. I think it was
You
Schittenbauer.
think it was a pretty simple?
Neighbour.
It was the neighbor next door.
Yeah, I think it was
Neighbour next
Schittenbauer,
door.
and I think that he found out that the kid wasn't his, and that it was Big Andreas's. You know,
Yeah,
granddaddy, daddy sort of thing. And
he's
he-
the laughing stock of the town,
Yeah, he ain't
Yeah.
gonna be that. Is old Schittenbauer, and he kicked off and he started going ham on folk.
and just quickly took a shit in the loft.
Yeah,
That's what I mean. How much?
Okay.
How much? How much
Cooked
shit was
yourself
in the
some dinner,
loft?
took a shit
They,
in the
they
loft.
said a considerable
like-
amount that would
Yeah.
led to have a
Days worth
human
or
being
months
there
worth?
for a reason. All it said was a reasonable amount of time. So it's not just somebody's like, oh, I need poops, yeah. They've been there for
Yeah, some people go 3 times a day, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
so-
but it'd been there for a while.
And it was human, yeah. It wasn't
Yep.
animal. It was human.
It was human. As far well, yeah.
Unless
As
it
far as
They
I'm
was
tasted
concerned.
it. Definitely
and then-
tasted
As far
human.
as far as
Sweet
shit
corn,
goes,
there was sweet corn in it.
It's human.
Yeah, it's definitely human.
Oh, God.
It was still warm yesterday.
They
Putting the
had
glasses on.
stew.
yeah. Fucking Scooby Doo comes in. No, right. I don't
No,
know
but
that
what
the,
if
the,
what
just
if
the
it was
attic's
his
weird as well.
kid, and he didn't like the fact that they were all this family, and then the retreat. Maybe they kept the 2-year-old up there or something in the attic, and he didn't like the way that the kids were being abused and stuff.
Yeah, it potentially.
Yeah.
There was
And
a
he may be
place in
faulting
there,
money as well because he knew he was quite wealthy, but
And then why would he kill the kid and the woman and all that?
and then
was-
stay there
Well,
for
he
2 years if he's a
hesitated to
neighbour.
kill the 7-year-old.
One other little thing, there was 2 cribs in the house, okay, for the little one. One was in the nanny's room and one was in Victoria's room. The one in Victoria's room was smashed to pieces.
Oh right, okay. But the one
It's
in
got
Nanny's
to do
room
with the
was-
kids then. It's got quite a lot to
That's
do
what
with the
I
kids
said. It's
then.
to do with the
Yeah,
kids.
it's quite it's quite distinctive, especially like you say the 7-year-old. Like totally different weapon, totally different way to die, and then obviously the crib as well.
If it was
But
so
well,
to do
who-
with the
well,
kids, then why would you kill the kid? Do you know what I mean? Like,
You don't know.
How'd you
Because
kill
she's
the
fucking.
2-year-old?
Because all of it, you thought she was going to be fine, and then all of a sudden she's shouting, "You killed mummy!" And you're like, "Oh fuck!
yeah, but
You're going to say this now for the next 2 years."
Loose ends sort of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, I like it doesn't want to, but like
kids have a mouth.
you know,
Yeah.
that is true.
Not if you
Loose
take them
ends
to,
in it.
like-
You think
yeah.
it's not. Is it worth the risk? Is it you've already killed 2-3 people? You might know what I
then
mean.
why kill
What's
the
killing
baby?
another 3?
Yeah.
Because at 2, they're not
That
going
is
to remember
true.
being 2. And they're not really talking at that age. I mean, the start 2 maybe, but not like you murdered someone. Like it's a 2-year-old. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
well,
perhaps you just found out that all of them were, Big Daddy Grubers. Oh, were probably Big Daddy Grubers, and was like, fuck the lot of you,
yeah. If you got vendetta against the family,
Yeah, you've made me a laughing stock of the village. Everybody knows. I was the last one to know. I'll be the last one you
with
see.
the Paul guy, what was the motive of the other murder? Was that relation? Was it just people he knew?
What,
We talked
Paul?
about living there
The murders in the States.
Yeah, Paul
yeah,
Muller.
when he,
Yeah,
I don't know
they
if you know anything about that, but
Yeah, well, what they said is that
People
they
do, unfortunately, Cal.
they felt that the motive behind that was to do with fucking dead bodies of little girls.
oh, you said that. Yeah, of course you did. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But there was no evidence of her being molested, though, was he? The 7-year-old. After she
Well, there's
died,
no other evidence.
There's no evidence
the other way
either
either.
side, really. I
right,
don't
okay.
think I don't think they were into that sort of thing back then in terms of taking that sort of evidence, swabbing how you should, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that
But
makes sense.
we know from now anyway that most children that have been sexually assaulted result in death. Like they do kill them,
Mhm.
and most of them,
Yeah.
a lot of them will be abused after they're dead as well.
So again, but who abused them all? The dad, but he died.
It was
too.
I mean, it was he had maybe like I don't know.
That's
I
what
mean,
makes me think it's that guy where he's like, "Fuck you, that was supposed to be my kid, and all you've done is fuck all your daughters." And
I mean,
Yeah,
he already had kids. The big Schittenbauer. His wife died. He did have a wife before that. I think he had another one by the time. I think he was technically having an affair, but I can't be 100% sure on that.
I did have a question. We'll come
Could be
back to me.
team though. It could be though. I don't know. But why? Why would 2 people do it? Like, say, what's the nanny's
And
motive?
it's hard to get away
Like,
with.
did she just have a bad day and just start killing kids? Like, because she was stressed out or something, and then she just fucking hit the kid, and then it died, and then she just carried on. But again, like, why? What's the motive of that? She's there for a day.
But then that's quite
Like-
structured, isn't it? Like bludgeoning. And then
Yeah.
it was only that 7-year-old that was the different one. That's weird.
It does seem very
I think
personal. I
it's
don't think someone
situational,
turning up for a
the
day
fact
would.
that she got killed differently. I think it was like a ooh fuck kind of thing. Like not.
Oh, I forgot about the 7-year-old.
I don't know how, but I just think it's situational. I don't think it was intentional. I think they were all.
Yeah,
should
it
have
was
all been
more
killed in the
panic
same
sort
way.
of shit. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But why go and grab another weapon just to hit the 7-year-old with when you've already got a mattock in your hand, what you've already killed a few other people with?
Maybe
You know what I
she was
mean?
killed first.
They did feel
Oh,
that
yeah.
for some
Mm.
reason that
Yeah.
Victoria, 35, the daughter, was killed first. They
Right.
believe
okay.
that she was the first one to die. Again, I don't
'Cause
know
then
how
what if the
or
7-year-old was
No.
going to
But
scream? But
they
then
believe
what was
that
the
it
other
was her.
weapon that killed the girl, the 7-year-old?
So she was hit in the head with some sort of blunt object,
Like blunt weapon.
and
sort of.
also was cut. Her throat was cut, but not deep enough for her to bleed out. Not
But still,
quickly.
that's
Unless
quite
she was
personal.
kept in the
Like the others
attic.
have been pickaxed and blundered, like the
Did they
baby,
find
and
any
then she
blood in
got
the
a throat
attic?
cut. Like, why cut a throat?
They didn't find any blood in the attic. No.
Because what if they'd been keeping the 7-year-old in the attic as an abuse thing or whatever, or punishment? What if they'd
Did she
been
look
keeping
abused,
her up
though?
there? They bludgeoned whoever
How does that look?
did it, bludgeoned everyone, and then she was the last one. And because that's where the murder weapon was hidden. So what if they threw that up there, grabbed the 7-year-old, took the 7-year-old, and killed her as the last one?
Yeah, I suppose it depends how physically she looked
Went
as
to
well.
hide the
Like if
weapon
she
and
looked,
found her.
yeah,
Oh,
like
maybe.
Callum said, "Yeah."
Just going for one last shit. And
could
It's another Gruber, yeah. I thought I'd run out of
Unless
Grubers.
she
We
was-
got one more
There's so
Gruber.
many.
Bonus Gruber.
Unless she was like the last one, so he knew that she was up there, and that's the last one I need to deal with. Go up, throw the weapon down, grab her.
or didn't intend to kill.
How do you hit
As
somebody in the
in-
head with a hammer and cut
That's
their
pretty-
throat and not intend to kill? I mean, that's pretty good.
No, I'm talking about as in like I've seen all these cinema movies where people are easily knocked out and I'll be able to do it, and not realizing A, that's the movies, and B, it's a 7-year-old skull.
That's true.
But why the throat cutting though? Like if he didn't mean to kill her, why try and cut her throat to nearly
then if
die,
you're gonna
but
get all
not nearly
grossed
die?
out about it as well, the last thing you would do is then go, "Oh, I know, I'll cut a throat."
Yeah.
That didn't kill her. I'll
Yeah,
cut her
but
throat
the
down.
fact that like it wasn't deep enough, it's like they've never done it before. So is it just like in a whim, just like, oh, I'll try it now. I've got the opportunity to try it. Like
Maybe
and then
maybe
if
maybe
it's
he
not
thought he
deep
had
enough,
killed her.
obviously,
Maybe he thought he had killed
Yeah.
her. Maybe he'd hit her over the
Yeah.
head,
That's what
cut
it
her
feels
throat,
like,
and she
doesn't
was
it? Yeah.
unconscious, and she thought that she died. They do believe, though, as I say, that she'd survived for hours afterwards because they have evidence that she'd pulled her own hair out, and a lot of the scalp was with it, and she'd probably died of shock.
God,
So
bloody
that's-
awful, isn't it? That's proper.
It is.
And where
That,
was she-
that
and
is
where was- and
so
she-
grim.
And she was found in the barn as well with the others. Or
She was in the barn as well, yeah.
And she didn't get
Where
out
was
the
this
back wall. She
pocket
didn't
knife
escape. or-
found? Was that found anywhere?
That was in the
In-
attic.
That was in the attic.
Yeah.
Did they find the
But
weapon
there's
for the
no
knife
blood in
for the
attic.
throat?
It's weird, isn't it?
They
Because
didn't,
then-
but they
What weapon
believe
they
it could very well have been that penknife. Because that would maybe,
I was gonna
because
say.
if it wasn't deep enough for that, you're not going to be like, it's not going to be a machete. You know what I mean?
you got to fucking saw it through, sort of thing.
Because what if they'd been keeping her up there and she's tried to kill herself or something? And then
Potentially,
but
yeah.
then
It's a Callum
hose
says
whacked
sort of
her over the
self-harm.
head.
Yeah.
And then they all.
I don't know. There's so many theories.
Mm.
And same Carl as well, but I
So they
really
said it
don't
was
know.
a hammer that hit her on the head, or just a blunt object.
Just
A
a
blunt
blunt
object,
object.
yeah.
A candlestick potentially.
A
Anything
Candlestick
to
holder, I
hand.
meant.
Well, that's like
gruber.
suicide in Russia.
Yeah, the guy shoots himself at the back of the head 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a locked car. Yeah. From the outside.
'Cause, I mean, as a 7-year-old, you wouldn't. I don't think even if you wanted to die, a child would be able to do that to themselves. So I don't know.
It's
No,
a tough
I
one.
don't.
That like to. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
that's
Is he
that
hit-
story, guys.
yeah.
Is there anybody got anything else
That's
that they want
mad.
to ask, add, contribute?
No,
Theorise?
I like the story. Like, there's just so many
Yeah.
avenues that could have all been working
I-
together.
it's-
Like, there could have been none of them. Like, you never
Yeah,
know.
it's such a weird. Like, so the way I normally go about these things, are we all aware of Occam's razor?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah,
I'm
you-
not. No.
Okay, so it's the principle that generally, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but generally the simplest explanation is the correct explanation.
However,
Oh, okay.
This defies it at every turn.
doesn't it?
Literally.
It's like,
you think it must
you know,
be this? Nope.
it's
Must be
like,
this, nope.
right. So first, it's the neighbor. You know that
Yeah,
fits
straight
Occam
away.
razor well. He just did it, and it's no, but actually the whole thing with the kids kind of weird. And you're like, okay, right then. So it was the two brothers. You know, and parts. There's a bit in everything that requires so many assumptions that Occam razor. Oh, I don't like it. Thanks,
I don't know.
Saruk.
Yeah.
It was a good choice, right?
I don't like it.
My thought with the kid.
It was great, actually.
If it was the neighbour, it would be easier to kill the baby as as one of the neighbours or whatever, because the baby's going to lay there in the crib or whatever if they're sleeping, or even if they're not. It's a 2-year-old, so you could easily just not look and bash it, which is awful. But the 7-year-old, that one would be like. That would probably be the one to likely fuck up, because
Come here, Grover.
it'd be like he wanted to hit her and kill her, but then the hesitation is why she didn't die, but then why would you cut the throat? That's the biggest
Yeah.
That's
that's
what I'm
confusing me.
questioning. Like that seems
Maybe
really
John McClane
personal,
went
like-
back in time to try and stop
John
the
McClane, he
Nakatomi
did.
Plaza being taken.
The unmade Die Hard. Wow.
Yeah. Bruce Willis went back in time, fucked up the Grobers.
Fucked up the German Grubers. It's a good story though. It's like I like
Mm.
I like.
I
well,
liked
it's
it.
weird to say that. I
I
like.
mean,
the
I
story,
didn't
but
like
I like
it,
the fact like you
but,
think about
you
it.
know.
Like,
It's
Yeah.
awful, and like I said to you, Saruk, before, like I love hearing about all the really crazy, ridiculous, disgusting, downright vile, like things like that, because it makes you think, how the fuck can you physically do that to somebody? What is going on in your head? Like, and I know it's just
Like,
bad to want to see that. It's not like I want to see it, but I mean, it's just interesting because it's so unbelievable. Like, why would you do
well,
that?
it's like watching like serial killer documentaries. And it's not because the serial killer. It's like what was their mind process? What was the thought process
Yeah.
in that situation? Why did
It's
they get to that
interesting
point?
to
Yeah.
me that there's
Like,
that
how
a
do
mind
they
is so
click, like-
different to us, like a normal mind.
Oh, Callum, he's
It's
gonna
crazy.
gonna
Callum,
nightmares.
you're right,
Similar to
bud.
me sleeping.
Just think of me. I've got
I
you, boo.
was- the only thing you can be certain of, it wasn't ghosts. All right.
But it could've been.
It's-
I
It
think it was the
wasn't.
dog. I blame the dog.
there are no
Could've been,
ghosts.
though.
The dog with the mattock in its mouth.
He chained
Wham,
himself up.
got a ball. It's-
What do you think, Saruk? What's your L?
I think
final
Schlittenbauer.
theory?
I think
Oh,
Schlitty
you said-
boy.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
How?
Do you have-
In what order? Because I'm interested, because of the 7-year-old thing that's annoying me.
yeah.
In what order were they killed?
Yeah,
Mhm.
how do you do it then, if you think that's what he did?
Big Slimbat was like, "Hey, Grobers," and like,
I have a
That's
mattock
it,
for
that's
you.
all, that's the beginning and end of your story. Hey,
Grobers.
Grubos.
No, I think what
Hey,
happened was that
Grubers.
he was Big Schlittenbauer was like went and met
Schlittenbauer's the
Victoria,
name.
Fits.
and they went and met in the barn. And they met in the barn to like discuss shit, you know. And she was like, "My dad, he keeps fucking me," and she's like, "You gotta stop fucking your dad," and all this sort of stuff. And then they maybe had an argument, and she was like, "The baby, he not even yours," and he kicked off about that. And from there,
yeah.
he fucked her up. You know, maybe that thing was just lying around the barn, and he picked it up and smashed her over the head with it. And from there, he was like, "Shit, what am I gonna do?" And he maybe walked out and saw Big Andreas coming, so he got like one at a time. He just fucked them up, and he had to finish them all off.
But then what about the 7-year-old?
Yeah.
And the baby?
This is from
It's
Germany,
His
Squire.
baby.
Germany.
So,
Yeah,
no,
Squire came in a bit like.
Yeah. 1920s
There
Germany.
was quite
Sorry.
a bit that you missed.
Yeah. Yeah, you can catch it on YouTube. For
Yeah.
anybody that's missed bits. So yeah,
Oh, what a
Nice
plug.
do you have time for one more?
Oh. Oh, I didn't know it was a double whammy.
Ooh.
We've got. I had another one
Tea.
just in case.
Can I get a cup of tea?
Ooh.
Of course. Take a minute, guys.
I want to grab a cup of tea.
Oh. Okay.
You go and grab a cup of tea. Toasty, McLeod, and I will have a little chat and have a little chat to
Okay.
chat. We've got another one.
Ooh.
It's not as graphic, but it is intriguing.
Okay.
Okay.
It is intriguing.
I'll be back.
Unfortunately, it does
How-
involve
how-
kids again.
How good are you at multitasking, Saruk?
Do you want me to touch myself at the same time or what?
Yeah, no. What I'm thinking is, while we're having this discussion, are you able to A, go into Ellie's scene, B, right click it, go to edit transform, and change it to
with
with the
bounds.
bounds? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which has got a big version of her room. But yeah, actually, does anyone in Callum? Do you actually have a preferred theory? Since I know that
Ooh,
you've been
yeah.
here the whole time, do you have a preferred? Is it the Slittenbauers? Is it the mass murderer? Oh, serial
Is it
killer.
the Gumps? Is it the Gumps?
Is it the Gumps? I keep forgetting about the
Gumps.
Gumps. I don't know why.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
mind just
Well,
wants
it's
to dismiss them
obviously-
so quickly.
The Gumps.
Well, it was
Quickly.
just because his sister was just like, oh, it's the Gumps that did it. That's the only really sort of.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
the
mean?
only
Like, there's
terribly
no really sort of
compelling thing
evidence,
about
like-
it. Yeah.
The Gumps were notorious. Like they were killers. You know, they had
Pedo
Ah.
serial killer. Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
the pedo serial killer does add up. There's no 100% connection with him and specifically Kaifek in Germany. But he was a German national, I believe from the sort of vicinity. But there's nothing. And there's no evidence to suggest that he went back to Germany either. That's just a theory. They believe that
right,
he
okay.
very well did because they never found him again in the States.
Mm.
You know, and there was at that time police, journalists had all kind of put two and two together and figured out that it was this guy. There was I think there was murders in Colorado and Kansas, I believe. So it started to cross state lines by that point. So like the feds were involved and shit were just getting real.
You think you just
know?
went, fuck it, I'll go pan
Fuck it.
national.
Went back home. Yeah, went home. There was other people.
That was
that-
Boris.
There was people that were kicking around that were suspected of and said this, but nothing that had any sort of. This is
Solid sort of evidence.
yeah. This
like-
story sort of fascinated people for years and years,
Yeah.
especially in the area. So any
And on
case,
top of that,
yeah,
the police going, I'm not going to tell you the answer. It just that's also
Yeah,
a
it's
sort of
like,
like a
why
next
are they
level that
covering
I
it?
keep adding to it. Like, you know, if it was the serial killer, why not just say, oh, it was a serial killer? Like,
Yeah.
what's sensitive about
yeah.
that?
Like
There's
why
nothing
withhold
sensitive about
information like because of family and stuff. It's like, well, who would be
I was
bothered?
thinking
Like,
slightly adds up, but they
hmm.
wouldn't have taken something. They would have taken something correct. Neighbor seems over prepared. Yeah. Russian soldiers just like nobody will know stuff. I mean,
yeah,
explain
Freedom of
everything about
Information
it.
Act. It does, but
But I
I feel
think
like
certain
it's to
things
do with
they
the
can say
case. It's a
no,
bit
right?
different.
the case
Yeah,
was
it's a bit different,
closed
I think.
officially in 1955 when the Commandant Commissioner retired. The guy that was basically running it retired, and then they closed. So the case was officially closed in 1955. And there was at the time, believe it or not, this was actually seen as a very thorough investigation. Like this gripped them
Yeah,
for years. You know,
Mm.
it had over 100 suspects at one point, and they interviewed over 100 people
Jesus.
as suspects.
Well, I'm going to take this
Did
time to
anyone
get a
get
drink.
convicted?
Actually,
So that
Yeah.
just shows
Yeah.
how cray that was. So yeah, it was a bit mental, that one. I'm glad you
Yeah,
liked
well,
that,
this-
Toasty.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. Like, obviously, I didn't know what I was expecting tonight anyway, but like, I love the fact that it's not answered. There is no answer for it. Like, it's all open ended still. Like after all this time. But
It
was
is.
anyone was anyone convicted?
No convictions. No,
wrongly?
they had, as I say, in the
Ah,
in the 50s, Anton Gruber was remanded in custody, but then was later released.
Yeah, right.
So
That's
they
the
released
closest
him
I've got
for a
to,
reason, I
like-
guess. But
Yeah,
they
there
did
must have-
seriously
yeah,
think about
exactly.
it. They thought about Schlittenbauer as well. I didn't kill him. I'll have a little look in a second, buddy. They did think Schlittenbauer, but again, I couldn't find what his not motive, what's the word, alibi
Yeah.
was exactly. But apparently, he had a damn good one. So
Yeah, to get him scot free, then yeah, probably a really good one.
yeah, you know, but they did suspect him for a long ass time.
Yeah,
He was just a bit weird, was old slitty face.
I can't believe over 100 suspects though. Like, obviously they must have. Well, they known everyone, didn't they? Everybody knew everybody, so it could have literally been any connection to the Grubers, like from being at work, from doing this, from doing that, like any altercation, any issue. But it's like, well, why the children? It's obviously not because of money, because they didn't steal anything. So it's kind of like, why?
Yeah. No
So,
Gruber
yeah.
survived. All the Grubers, all dead Grubers. They
Oh.
leveled the place, and there's sort of a memorial there now in Kaifek for it. But yeah, no Grubers to be found. Oh, dead
No
Grubers.
Grubers. Right, now
Grubers.
Ellie's back. I'll go get a drink. I don't
Hey,
know what you're
Ellie.
on your Todd, mate. We'll keep doing.
You go and
We'll
grab
keep
a
tagging
drink.
each other in and out.
Tag each other in. You got your tea there, Ellie. You good?
I got my tea and my biscuits.
Biscuits. Love a biscuit. I've not got any biscuits.
I've got bourbons.
Bobbins, but Gruber was the. But you said a Gruber was detained. Oh no, sorry. Did I say a Gruber? A Gump. It was a Gump was detained
Gump.
in 1950. Yeah, sorry. If I did say that, I missed.
I'd forgot.
I
I
can't
totally
actually
forgot
turn Ellie up.
Slittenbauer had
It's-
a,
Their three are on the same channel, so it would be at her end to turn her up or sit closer to the mic. I can't turn us.
Try boost yourself in voice meter a little. Far left.
Hang on. Any better for you guys?
Sounds
Yeah.
much the same.
I can hear you.
I mean, I didn't put it up majorly, but
Oh yeah, no, there you are. No, you are up a bit there.
Yeah,
That's
you're-
all right.
You're all good, Ellie.
But yeah, I'd forgotten that Slittenbauer had that amazing alibi.
Yeah, as I say, like, and I do believe his alibi was solid because the police were, like, they were after him. You know, the police were keen on nailing him. So if they were keen on nailing him, then it had to have been a good one.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just going to be, oh yeah, it's the Gruber Schlittenbauer. Oh, he's a friend of ours, so we just let him go, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, mein Freund. I don't,
mind
Mein
him.
Freunde.
mein Freunde. Here comes Toasty.
Oh, the gang's back together.
Mm-hmm.
Right, ladies and gents.
Sorry, I meet him.
I'm gonna come out of the shadows for a bit.
So we may very well this one shouldn't go on as long. But this is just an interesting one. I got this one just in case we were a little bit earlier and as a little bit of a filler.
Okay.
We're going to the United States.
USA.
Christmas
USA.
Eve, December 24th, 1945. This time. We're still going back.
Little bit
We're
later.
America.
America.
And we're going to Fayetteville, West Virginia.
Ooh, where's Virginia?
Okay.
We're in
Know it
Fayetteville,
well.
West Virginia, in the United States, when a fire ripped through the home of the Sodder family and leveled the place. Okay, burnt the place
Okay.
to the ground on Christmas Eve, 1945. At the time, it was occupied by George Sodder and his wife Jennie, who were sort of first-generation immigrants from Italy, and 9 of their 10 children lived in the house with them.
A
They
small
were
American
Catholics.
family then.
They were Catholics. They were Italian Catholics. If any
Yeah,
of you guys,
don't say.
if any of you guys don't really know what happens when you're a Catholic, basically the first rule is just don't pull out. Right. That's pretty much it. So that was it. So
He's not wrong.
what year? 1945, Callum. 1945 in Fayetteville, West Virginia. 4 of the
Googling
9
it.
children escaped the fire. The bodies of the other 5 children have never been found, and no remains were ever discovered.
How many
them.
children made it out? Sorry.
4 out of the 5.
Okay.
Okay. First thought. How can you have a first thought? We've not started yet. But go for it.
Look at that toasty.
The
I know, it's one of my
fire
nuance.
marshals and the authorities believed that the 5 children had died in the fire. The Sodder family strongly believe against that and said that their 5 children are actually missing and have survived, and they are out there
Ooh.
somewhere, or were out there somewhere.
What?
Now we'll get to the racist incidents about World War II because I'll tell you there is some aspects of that, but with a slight twist on that. To be honest, there was theories. In fact, I'll tell you now, there was theories that the children had been taken by the Sicilian mafia at the time. George Sodder did actually have connections there, and he was very outspoken about Benito Mussolini and the fascist government of Italy, and that was bad patter back then, right? That was bad, you know. That was bad patter. You didn't do that with some. There was people that did threaten to kill his children, kidnap his children, burn his house down. He had those threats, and those threats were documented, because he was very outspoken against the fascist government of Italy, and they didn't like that.
Okay.
So they moved to the United States. It was actually in 1908 they moved there, so they've been there for quite a while. And he owned a sort of coal shipping business, you know, drove coal about, dumped it off. In the house, there was Jennie, the mum, Dad, George, John, 23, Marion, a daughter, 17, George Jr., 16, Morris, 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, Jennie, 8, Betty, 5, and Sylvia, 2. So
Sorry, writing this down.
he kept
Football team.
he kept
Football
his
team.
wife preggers, like, didn't he?
Yeah, he kept going. It's
The
like
amount
a
of
fucking
times, no, but a
factory.
lot of them,
God.
if you got to remember, Callum, he'd this was 1945. So they moved to the States in 1908. So they'd been in America for a long time. So they were very Americanized. You know, they weren't like,
Yeah.
you know, hey.
Typical.
They were very like American Italian. Said, hey, see,
They're not very well.
where the Sodder Children at, say?
Not
very-
very. Hey, you know what I
Hey,
mean? A bit of.
Get me a coffee. And, you know, it was... So out of those children that I mentioned there, the ones that
That sea of
survived
children.
was John, who was 23, Marion, who was 17, George Jr., who was 16, and Sylvia, who was 2. They had one other child, but he wasn't in the house at the time. He was actually away with the army. So he weren't about. So it was Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve's a nice time, right? Or it's supposed to be. You know, especially if you've got kids, they're all excited, they're going to see. She'd be like, hey, that Santa thing that's just been invented, a pain in the ass, you know? Having to buy all her kids that and whatnot stuff. And she's like, oh, Mr. Papadopoulos made me work at Christmas, you know? All that sort of stuff. Can't believe it, I was going to go out with my boy. So why not? So a 2-year-old survived Cleveland not carrot. Yeah, well, we'll get to it,
It's like
Cal.
Panther.
We'll get to
It's
it.
like Panther.
The night itself. So 12:30 in the evening. So Christmas morning. Okay. In fact, no. We'll go back a couple of hours. It was 10 p.m. There was a bunch of the kids were still up, going about. They had some chores to do still, and the mum was like, "Okay, if you do your chores, you can stay up a little bit longer." They'd done their chores, stayed up a little bit longer.
This was Christmas Eve. Sorry.
Christmas Eve, yep.
Okay.
Sylvia, the 2-year-old, was taken upstairs by her mum, and what happened was Sylvia and her mum and her dad was already asleep, and there was a couple of the kids were still left downstairs, okay, playing. And at 12:30 in the morning, Jennie woke. So Jennie's the mother, okay, and she woke to a phone call. The phone was ringing. So I mean, you gotta imagine like her son's away with the army and stuff. She'd be waking up like probably like if you're getting a phone call at that sort of time on Christmas Eve, she'd be like, "Shit, what's happened to him?" You know, or anything like that. She went downstairs to answer it, and when she went downstairs, she noticed like the lights were on, then the door was still unlocked and stuff, and a couple of her kids were like clearly, I think. It was Martha was still asleep on the couch, along with Marion, her 17-year-old, was asleep on a chair. They didn't even notice the phone was ringing, and the Christmas lights were still on. And she answered the phone, and it was a voice that wasn't familiar to her. She didn't know the voice. It was somebody that was asking for somebody that she didn't know. She heard laughter in the background, and then she said it was a wrong number. And then she said she remembers the woman had a weird laugh that she gave down the phone after she said she didn't know who she was talking about, and then the call disconnected. That was at 12:30.
Clearly a prank call type thing.
Well, we don't really know. I mean,
Something.
I don't know. Like back then, was it not like? How'd you get wrong numbers back then? Did it not go to like those sort of put in your throat collar, or like those sort of switchboards and stuff
Yeah.
back then? Was it not like
Yeah.
dial in Fayetteville,
yeah.
5664,
They-
say yeah.
The actual
Yeah.
operator, like the operator actually operating the line.
I
so-
want a soundboard.
Just
of
fair ball,
just
beat
you
super.
through.
Yeah,
Say client to the Grubers.
that's what it is. I was just saying,
I
well,
want a
maybe
truck
that
call,
was
see? Straight to
maybe that
Germany,
was the
see?
woman that was
What
working
about the
Christmas
sea?
Eve. You know, the woman that was working Christmas Eve, and she maybe wasn't paying attention. She's like, "Oh yeah, Mr. Papadopoulos has got me working Christmas." You know, I don't hate that guy. You know,
Motherfucker.
yeah. And so you never know. But either way, call came through, and she just left her kids sleeping on the couch. She's like, "Ah, fuck those guys," and went back to bed. Okay. Half an hour later, Jennie was awoken again by the sound of an object hitting the roof with a loud bang. Now, their house was quite a funny shape, so it was their room, the sort of master bedroom, did have a roof direct, like all had a roof, but the ceiling did essentially was the roof of the house, but there was an extra bit to it that went up to an attic, and that's where 5 kids slept in the attic. Okay. And then
5 of them.
Yeah, 5 of them. And then there was us. The same floor was Furman House is occupied. Yeah, it's occupied. Yeah. They had, and on the same floor as the parents was where the other kids' bedrooms were as well. And so she'd heard an object hitting the house with the roof with a loud bang and then a rolling noise, as if something was rolling down the roof. Again, turned over, went back to sleep. Half an hour later, 1:30 in the morning, Jennie woke up to the smell of smoke. She woke up to the smell of smoke. She ran out, saw there was smoke, saw there was flames coming from upstairs. She went to try and use the phone to phone the fire brigade. Phone didn't work. She was just on the phone an hour and a bit ago. Phone didn't work. She obviously woke her husband awoke. They all ran out. The kids that were on that floor and the ones that were still downstairs, they escaped. Is Jennie one? Yeah, Jennie escaped. So there was those that survived. As I say again, Jennie was the mum. George is the dad. Other John. George is the dad.
I already have a theory.
John, 23, survived. Marion, 17, survived. Sylvia, the baby, she was obviously just carried out with her mum. She survived. And George Jr., 16, survived. Now, George Jr., who was 16, apparently tried to climb the staircase to the attic where the other 5 kids stayed and couldn't get through. You know, they said the smoke was too thick, and he said she shouted, but he heard no response at all. Initially, George Jr. and his dad, George Sr., went round to the back of the house to use this big ladder to try and climb up. The ladder was missing from where it was earlier that day. No ladder there. There was a big barrel full of water, but that was frozen solid. Right? We can't blame anybody for that, right? Christmas Eve.
Okay.
No water for the Grubers. Oh no, it wasn't the Grubers. It was the Sodders. The Sodders. Sodders, hey. So they couldn't get that. They had 2 coal trucks. Okay, and he tried each one because he wanted to like back the truck up and try and climb on the roof and then to get up to the window so he could get in.
Makes sense, yeah.
And
Which kids were trapped in there at that point?
So the ones were trapped is Morris 14, Martha 12, Louis 9, Jennie 8, and Betty 5.
Oh,
They were in the attic. Okay,
Getting rid of the middle children.
Yep, they went to try and get both these trucks, but they both wouldn't start. And they hello, they were both used earlier that day, obviously for work, and now they wouldn't start.
what?
Yep. So they were outside. They didn't hear any screams. They didn't hear see anything from a window. They didn't see anything like that from those kids. They had to stand outside. Now the phone didn't work. Jennie, the mum, ended up having to run to a neighbour. Where then they were presumed to be in the attic.
Yeah, so that's where the kids slept.
Yeah, they were
presumed to be in the attic.
They were presumed to be in the attic. That was the thing. Callum, they were presumed to be in the attic. Obviously, when her mum got up to answer the phone, she didn't go round and check everybody's rooms. She just presumed they were still in the attic where they left them a couple hours earlier.
You know you've put them to bed. You know where they are. Yeah.
Presumed they were in the attic, but there was no noise from it. You couldn't hear banging. They couldn't hear anything like that from kids trying to get out or nothing like that.
Question.
Go for it.
Did the mum wake the dad when she heard the noise on the roof or the call that was weird?
I don't know. There was nothing to suggest that she bothered them, really.
Because everybody would, wouldn't they? I don't like.
Or there was. I mean, she might be like, George, did you hear that on the roof, George? And he's like, fuck off. Like, you know, it's like,
it turns
go to
Scottish
sleep.
for like,
Aye, fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck
George.
off.
George, go to sleep, you bitch.
Hey, yeah, that was quite good, Toasty. I'm impressed.
Every time.
What are you on about on the roof, you daft thing?
About the fucking roof.
Someone's over and goes
You
to
and your
sleep.
fucking
Sleep.
bitch.
What's
Wrong with you?
So there was.
Fucking sleep.
So I don't know is the answer. I mean, maybe she did. Maybe he woke up and he was like, "Go to sleep, say." You know, who knows?
Go to sleep, say. But it's day tomorrow, say.
It's a day, Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, Christmas day tomorrow.
So
One or
no,
two many eggnogs as well could have occurred.
could have been.
It occurs to
true.
me.
True.
So
I'll call it
they
the virages.
went to. So remember, this was about 1:30 ish in the morning, and 1:45 in the morning. Jennie, the mum, ran next door, to use their phone. There was also a guy in a car that saw the flames and went to a nearby pub to try and use the phone there to phone the fire brigade. Hey, there's a fire in the old Sodder place, eh? So they went. So they went to do that. Now they were actually both parties were independent of each other, trying to phone the fire brigade, but they were both struggling to actually get through to the fire brigade. 8 a.m. the next morning, the fire brigade turned up.
What?
Wow.
Now,
Okay.
8 a.m.
Yep.
So it's like 7 hours after it
Yeah.
happened.
Now, what you've got to remember is 1945. The war's not been over for that long, and they had a pretty scant fire brigade, fire service.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of men that were, dead. And how that fire service worked is essentially it went through to a switchboard who then would phone one person. No, it didn't go. Sorry, the phone was directed to one individual person who then had to phone each an individual other firefighter and say, "Get out of bed,"
Oh, right. Okay.
So it took them hours to get there. Now the fire chief, Mr. Morris. We'll get on to Mr. Morris. That boy was a bell, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, they when they got there, by that time the house was pretty much burnt to the ground. Pretty much
yeah,
burnt
I
to the
can
ground.
imagine.
So the family basically just had to watch as that occurred. So there was a few things so far. House burnt to the ground. Strange phone call. Water barrel frozen. Goddamn God. There was
The rolling on
the
the
main
roof.
things was the fact that the ladder was missing, and the two trucks that were used earlier that day weren't functional, so they couldn't work, and they hadn't actually heard anything from the kids beforehand. However, they did
Oh.
presume
Hello, Nudda. By the way.
they
Hello.
did presume. What was the weather that day? It was Christmas Eve, so probably pretty cold.
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
It was,
Cold,
and the reason
okay.
why I know it was cold is because the water barrel that they kept outside was frozen solid, so it was chilly.
Chiller. Just a
Chilly.
wee bit nippy, would you say?
I'm from Edinburgh. It was just a bit cold. Now, remember that. So the mum woke up to a phone call. She then woke up to something hitting the roof and rolling down. She felt it was something was rolling down the roof. Then half an hour later, she'd smell smoke. First, go for it,
Did
guys.
they find
So
any-
far,
I was gonna say, did they find any bodies of the children up in the
Yeah.
supposed attic? Was there any bodies found?
That was the suggestion
evidence.
earlier that they weren't found.
there was no.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
just- yeah.
No
There was no.
remains?
Well, there was no remains found at the time whatsoever.
Because you'd
So
at
it could be
least,
one of
even
few
if
things,
the fire was
like-
that bad, you'd find bone, wouldn't you?
They found bits of their beds.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
not
what I'm
trying to
thinking, it could have been
compound the fact
something
that I
like
murder
one-
people, but teeth are really hard to get rid of.
Yep, there was nothing. Nothing.
Mm. But as you say, if they took
McLeod's
the
got a
kids,
box
like
of them
some
under
guy,
his bed.
Best
just
place
like
to keep them,
these.
mate. And just like these ones.
if- if
Oh,
If they
They're called
used the ladders,
trophies.
they could have potentially used some sort of fuel to start the fire in the top of the attic. But where were the kids? How do you get rid of 5 kids in like
Exactly.
a matter of an hour and a half
I mean,
without
could
them
they have
saying
been- could
any
it- I mean,
word?
Could have been drugged. Could
And the
have been this. Could have been. The mafia are pretty
Like
good.
that
The
rolling
bird
could have
bonnet is
been
remains
fuel.
always found.
Like,
They done. I'll come back to that point, Callum. All right, I will come back to that. That's part of the tale. But I will come back to
and
that.
then obviously they might have cut the phone lines, and then obviously fucked up with the truck, so they didn't work. So it could have been somebody personal against them. But why? Like but why the phone call? You're like, and they're laughing and
Oh,
stuff.
I
That's
know. I think
strange.
the phone call just confirms they're there. They haven't gone away for the.
It wasn't all
Yeah,
children, was it? Was
okay.
it just 3 children?
5.
5 children.
Because I thought
the
the
attic.
teenagers were downstairs. and
Yeah,
they
there
got
was. There
out.
was 9 children in the house.
9. Okay.
Yeah. Now, 5 of them went. It could have very well be confirming occupancy or confirming that they don't know yet.
But they
Confirming that
haven't
they don't
sussed,
realise
yeah.
they've not sussed it up. Phone up, going, "Hi, Johnny, is that you?" It's like
Yeah.
it's they're like,
Yeah,
yeah,
could
what's
have rang
up?
them, and then
There
there could have been somebody there already. Like after they picked the
Hmm.
phone up, then cut the line. literally straight after, because it's obviously been like an hour and a half,
Mhm.
and then she's heard the rolling thing. But and then, I don't know. Then like to the
'Cause
sight
my
of smoke, I'm
instant
assuming the
thought
smoke
like,
was coming
what
from
if
the
it was
attic.
the mother that
Yeah.
had just had enough of these kids
Could have been.
and
Fuck these
murdered
sad
them.
But
and
she
then
was only
did-
It's
received
and
a
then
lack
started
of
the
bodies,
fire
as far
to
as
get
I'm
rid of
concerned.
them.
That
Like
Yeah.
nothing. Like no bones, no. But as I say, they found parts of the kids' beds. So like, if the beds had surely wooden beds would be burnt
yeah.
down as well.
No,
if
no, no.
bodies had-
Like I'm being serious. It's like
Yeah.
really hard to get rid of teeth. Like,
Yeah.
like they're the things that that's always the sticking
Well,
point.
you know, it's I
even in
looked
the
this up.
furnace.
I looked this up, and to actually
Yeah.
cremate a whole body to dust, like you're talking 2,000 degrees for hours. You know, like to actually get it to
Yeah.
dust. It's not something. You know, it's jet fuel isn't going to melt Sodders. You know, to get back to the conspiracy thing. You know, so it's a funny one. The fire brigade. The fire brigade said it was an electrical fire. Okay. They said it was an electrical fire caused by faulty electrical wiring. George Sodder was like, nah. He doesn't believe it was for a couple of reasons. One, he just had the whole place rewired a couple of months previously. And was very confident in it. Secondly, they said the lights and the Christmas lights were still on when they ran out of the house.
Because I thought that like a lot of fires start at Christmas, don't they? Because of
Yeah.
It wasn't
lights
started.
and
It wasn't
trees and
started
things. And
downstairs
if
with
they
the
would have had a
Christmas
real
tree.
tree.
Yeah, the fire started from upstairs, from in the attic. So
That's what
Yeah,
you
so
mean.
why? Like,
they
how can
believe
it-
that it was
yeah.
some sort of incendiary device was thrown up. Some sort of pineapple.
Hence
bomb
the
type
rolling on
thing.
the roof
Yeah.
is
Hence
the
the
suggestion
rolling,
then.
yeah.
Yeah.
And remember, these guys had
like
been
the,
threatened numerous times.
fuel in a bottle thing.
Yeah.
They had said that, and now, so the Sodder, Jennie, and George, they weren't having any of this shit, right? They were like, motherfuckers, our kids are missing, right? You didn't find
Yeah,
anything.
literally.
What's going on? You know that this
Yeah.
this is creepy, right? Now,
Who would want the kids though? Like, why?
well, there
Well,
was
exactly.
the
It's a motive,
George
like-
was quite involved in, I suppose, involved in a positive way from our side with the Italian mafia, or he knew of them and knew people that were within them, and they had threatened to take his kids and take his kids back to Sicily to teach them a lesson for his dad's
so
poor views on
disappeared.
Mussolini.
Okay.
That could be them. Could be the mafia, I suppose. And,
And
it
there was-
explains why the
Seems
kids
most
are
likely.
missing.
There's like photos and stuff. You know, you can search for this and Google that and whatnot. There are photos of, oh, thanks Twilight. There are photos and whatnot of these of people that are claiming to be. I think Lewis is one of them. Lewis later on in life. This is I am one of the Sodder children, and he is in Sicily. So, I'll grab that in a second. That's a lot of words, but let me have a little look at that.
Essay.
Whoa.
So the fire brigade, they were like, nah, it's electrical fire in this other place. Now, Mr. Morris, the fire chief, he actually, so later on, there was a report that they'd found a heart at the site.
Huh?
They'd
A heart,
found
like a human heart.
Yeah, they said we found a human
Okay.
heart. This proves that the kids died there. So they took this heart.
Was it suspiciously pig heart shaped?
It was a
Yeah.
beef liver. It was a
And
beef
was
liver.
it
Well,
a beef liver.
Where did I see that coming?
And it wasn't even cooked. It wasn't even burnt. Like it was in a box.
Yeah, I was
actually.
gonna say just like raw. Like
It was
fucking
actually in a metal
raw heart.
box, and
What?
that was put there, and by the fire chief, and apparently he put that there to say he done it so he could give them some resemblance of closure, to finally.
What
What
planting
a
the-
shitty
yeah.
false
version
evidence?
of closure is that? Like,
Yeah,
what the
planting
fuck?
false evidence. That's how we do it.
It to satisfy them that their kids were dead. So
By
the sort-
finding an unburnt heart, all the other
Yeah.
organs had perished in the fire, but the heart survived. Like,
Yeah, the heart
Yep.
survived. That solid stone fucking bone heart we have.
So
in the
George
middle teeth.
Sodder, he ended up like the place was whatever was left of it. Hey chicken, whatever was left of the place,
Hey.
Hey,
he
bro.
Hey,
just
chicken.
he just sort of bulldozed into this big ash pit, right? This thing just became this big
Oh,
ash
man.
pit. He still believed that his kids were out there somewhere, and he actually convinced the authorities in 1949. Cheers, chicken. They're convinced in 1949 to do a big excavation of the site. Now, a very thorough search and excavation was done of the site in 1949. Oh, chicken, you wee legend. Thank you, buddy. Was
Oh,
a very
chicken.
thorough search was given
Chicken.
of the place. What they found, right, was a dictionary that belonged to the children. They found some coins and several small bone fragments.
Okay.
Right? They found these bone fragments that had been determined locally to be come from human vertebrae. Okay?
Where were they found? Sorry.
They were found in the pit. Right? That actually,
Okay,
they
in
were
the
found
big
on
ash
site.
pile.
Yeah, the big ash
Ah,
pit
right.
that in
Could've been planted, though.
1949. So this is 4 years later. The bones were sent to the Smithsonian. Okay? They were sent to
Naturally.
they were sent to back then. You know that's one of the places, one of the only places you're really going to get proper analyzed.
Oh, bone
you know?
special. Okay.
You know,
okay.
oh,
Yeah,
chicken,
yeah,
you be
that makes
legend.
sense.
Don't you worry. You're not interrupting at all, buddy. Thank you very much for the bits.
Oh, chicken.
They were sent there, the Smithsonian, and what happened was they looked at them and they said, yeah, they're human vertebrae, all right, but they can tell by how the discs and whatnot are fused and the fusion of them, how old the kids would have been or that these bones came from, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And they said they would have been about 23 or 24. Okay? 23 or 24 is the age that these vertebrae came from. Now, let us remember the oldest person that died was Morris at 14. And they said it's
Yeah.
very, very
Okay,
unlikely
yeah.
that those vertebrae came from a 14-year-old boy. Now, they said it's not totally impossible. Kids can develop, their vertebrae can fuse at a younger age, but it's extremely unlikely. Okay, it's as unlikely as the Grobas not fucking the daughters. You know, it's that unlikely. Now, also they'd actually found that these vertebrae, these bone fragments that had been sent to them, had no sign of exposure to flames whatsoever, and
Plant.
it was later
Yeah,
found
planted.
that they'd came from
Yeah.
a nearby cemetery in Mount Hope that was nearby, but they couldn't find where why they were put there or who put them there.
Fucking
And-
chief, mate. He planted the heart. He's gonna be planting bones as well. But why is he
Yeah.
vendetta though? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
the chief
why
was
would
Half-assed
someone-
job by the mafia. That was a
Yeah.
half-assed one. That
Yeah.
that
Oh,
was a
look,
Friday
there's one
Unless
evening.
it was the,
I want to go home, lads. Where can we quickly get
Yeah.
some bone fragments? Not the right age. No one will fricking send them to the Smithsonian. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's-
Literally.
There was
Like, they're never going to
numerous-
check this ash pile anyway.
ever,
Why
yeah.
why has the boss got us out here doing this?
We better put the bones in now, say. So, like, we're gonna get
We
the
need bones
Get
there, see?
them from Mount Hope.
Put a bit of bones, eh?
We gotta get the bones from Mount Hope and get them to the old Sodder place. So say
Too good at
and
that.
basically there's been numerous sightings of these kids. It's like this was like the
Okay.
Madeleine McCann, you know, like everybody's like, I've seen the
literally.
Sodders, they're over there. All this sort of
Work at the
there
mill.
was a couple of really credible ones. One on the night and one the next day, actually on Christmas Day. The 26th. Now that night, a woman who had actually been watching the fire from the side of the road, she saw the fire, actually saw a car come out of their land or where they stayed, and they said they saw numerous children looking out the window towards it and driving off. She couldn't care. She said
Out
there was
the window
at
of
least
the car.
sorry, out the window of the car. Yeah, she says there was kids in a car that drove from there and drove. She didn't know exactly how many or what she is because it was obviously like went quickly, but she says there was definitely kids in the car looking out, and that same or apparently that same car was seen the next on the 26th. The reason why they think it was the same car is because it had Florida license plates, and there wasn't many places in West Virginia in 1945 cars that had Florida license plates. Or it was quite, I'm sure there was somebody, but like
it was unusual, yeah.
It's niche, very much a niche.
Very niche. And it was actually at a diner on the 26th, and there was 5 children that were served food. And didn't
But
speak.
surely they'd say something though. The kids would be.
Again, that was.
I know kids are scared, but
If you're scared, if you're scared and hungry.
Yeah.
If you're scared and hungry.
If you keep quiet, you get a burger. If you don't, I shoot.
There'd have to be a group of them though to like.
Or it could be
5 kids. Couldn't risk them not, one of them running off or something.
Well, what I'd do, right? If I had those 5 kids, I'd be like, well, if you ever want to see your mum and dad again, you do what I tell you. Do you want to see Louis? Do you want to see your other kids? Do you want to see your brothers and sisters? I'll kill them. We'll do this. We'll do that.
I'll do whatever you want, Saruk.
Yeah, I'll do whatever.
I'm already scared. So I'm chilled to the bone.
It just is very like.
So there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
With that. Now, as I say, there's been sightings, there's been some sort of credible things, some not so credible things. I'll let you guys look it up yourselves about all the potential people that say that they're a Sodder child, all this. And sadly, both Jennie and George went to their graves not 100% knowing where their children ended up. Yeah. So, regardless of what happened, it is a tragic story.
Yeah.
If the kids survived and been taken somewhere, they've still been taken from their families.
Yeah,
they're alive, fair, but we don't know. Are they Madeleine McCann alive? Or are they JC Ledoux alive? We don't know.
Being brainwashed, you never know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff on that. So, thoughts, guys? That is the story of the Sodder children. I hope you enjoyed it.
It's strange, because about the the diner and about the kids getting taken and the kids wasn't there. Yeah. Then there was the fire starting from upstairs, and then the phone call, and it all just sort of link that with the mafia, as I say, with the planted the bones.
That is textbook. Yeah.
Planting the bones in the ash, just dug some bones up, and then obviously the mafia took the kids, because he said they was going to take them anyway.
Yeah, there was numerous threats that were made to George Sodder because he was really outspoken. It wasn't just a guy that was like, I heard Mussolini say, he was very big in the anti-fascist movement.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just an off-the-cuff remark that this guy would sort of campaign for this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and you can also imagine the mafia sort of we've dug up one of these burials to we're going to bury Jimmy Hoffa here. It's actually we've got now some spare bones. We could. Do you remember that job we did with the big ash pile?
Just stick them in the ash pile. Just sticking leg bones out of this big ash pile.
No. What do you have for lunch? Beef liver. Oh, that'll do as well.
It's a shame.
I think
Dr. Lucy.
Literally everything, Dr. Lucy.
What did Dr. Lucy miss?
Literally everything.
We've had some. We've had German incest. We've had Italian American stuff. We've had all sorts of things. But don't worry. Tomorrow morning, hopefully, this will be up on YouTube, so you'll see that as well. It will be up on YouTube, and I will link it so people can watch this. Guys, that's my stories.
That's great. I love them.
Did you enjoy it?
Well
I will sleep so well for having this story time with you, Saruk. Thank you.
Did you enjoy it? I hope you can all sleep well tonight. It was all right, Callum. Love you, man.
No worries, Callum.
Love you, dude. There's a lot to all that. There's some creepy shit that's going on, and I would like to do one of these again. I think these are quite fun. I think these are quite fun because there's a lot of stuff.
I ain't sleeping tonight.
There's a lot
the
of
fact
stuff
that we don't know either. This is literally our first reaction. We don't know anything about it. You just have to give us information. We just make a judgment from that.
Because I sort of figure them out. I try and figure them out as they're going along.
Yeah, it's like
and
a
then
puzzle,
I get that gratification that the asshole's caught.
It's
I can try and get a couple of
I can in the kitchen with a candlestick.
Yeah, I can see that you perhaps I like knowing I'm right or finding out why I was wrong. That's my thing.
I just like to know I'm correct.
Okay.
There's yeah,
pretty
a
much
lot
my
with
life.
a lot with a lot of twists and turns, guys.
It was great.
No, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, really impressed.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks, Squire.
Guys, thank you three for being here. That's been awesome as always. You guys are legends
pleasure.
and great company.
Anytime.
I'm really looking forward to the next one. Whatever
What should we
that
do
may be,
next?
which we'll
What we
figure
do
out.
next?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
have
what
to
are
sit
we
and
doing
figure out what we'll do
next?
next.
Mm.
Again,
Well,
guys,
we need to
like,
probably have another meeting.
some of you guys as well have. Can you say my thing, please? Yes, okay. It would be so awesome. It would be so cool. It would be the most incredible superhero the world has ever seen. The screen would light up with real explosions and special effects. If this says the N word halfway through, like tons and tons of special effects. My super
I've
sweet
proofread
cape
it,
would
you
be
good.
special effects and would blow your mind because it's my movie, my superhero movie. It's all about me. Yeah, it's all about me. It's my movie, my superhero movie. They'll be lining up to see a movie all about me.
I
I'd
tell you
really
what, that's
Right.
cheaper than paying for a Scottish actor on Fiverr, isn't it? You just come into a chat, you
It'll
bam
be
that
so
down,
awesome,
and just be
anything.
like, read that out.
It'd be so awesome. Like, is what I'm starting to think with that is though, right? Is if it was a bunch of words that he's going to put together that somehow he's going to be like now hacking into my bank, right? So he's going to like, you know, it's something like that. So
Accepted.
it's Western Global Airlines unscheduled stop in Harambe Airport. Now that's creepy. Do you know what, Callum? That's not a bad shout. Actually, we'll have a little look into stuff like that. Now, chat. You guys, some of you guys have sent me. I've had loads of stuff from you guys actually. Loads of
Have
little
you?
bits and people.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's
Can you
been
give
really,
us some
really good.
examples?
Who's your
Squire.
fave? Ellie, Toasty, or McLeod?
You can't do that.
He can. He's not a dad. Because he can ask.
It's always been me. It's me.
Like, I have to say, do you know what I tell you, Squire? I mean, it can't be anybody but McLeod, though. Like,
Yeah, I mean, look at
McLeod's
that face.
clearly
Hang
my
on.
favourite. You know, he
know.
is. I mean, look
He's
at him.
everyone's favourite.
He's gorgeous.
That face.
He's just, he's
that V-neck.
just
It's
Ellie,
chest.
obviously.
Oh,
I mean, there's
Lucy.
Ellie's all
I knew
right.
the mafia angle
Yeah,
was
he's mine
coming.
too. Yeah, like, Ellie's all right, but it's McLeod,
Squire,
man. You know, it's
cheater.
Squire. I know, right? But yeah,
Oh,
we've
dude,
had
might
we've had
actually
quite a
blush.
few, which the four of us will sit and have a chat about.
Tell us.
We might even be getting looking to possibly get some other guests on. I've got some ideas for later in the year and what we can do for you
Smoke's gonna
Americans
fire
leading
us.
up to your election. We've got some ideas. I've got some ideas for that. We've got all sorts of bits and pieces planned. So guys, thank you very much for your support. You guys are freaking awesome. This will be on YouTube. I'm going to probably try and get on YouTube tomorrow or Saturday. And then I'm going to have some more stuff on YouTube as well. It's all going to be fun and games. Guys, anything left from you three beautiful people?
Should I
No,
say
brilliant
thank
as
you?
always.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone
in
Thanks
chat.
for having us.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
All the
Can't wait till
biddies.
the next
Oh.
one.
Yeah, chicken there with the bits and the
Yeah,
and
thanks,
the
guys. I appreciate that.
Sub as well. What a
Yes,
Yeah.
chicken.
yeah.
And all the new followers. Welcome.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
But no, thanks, dude. Yeah, again, thanks for having us.
No worries.
Pleasure,
Everybody,
yeah.
Thanks.
thank you
Saruk.
very much for a lovely night. Sleep well. Don't have nightmares. I've been Saruk. They've been Toasty, Ellie, and McLeod. Good night, guys.
Good night.